Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in and listening and watching. We are the Real Short Box Live. My name is Donald. We have Kevin here. We have Darren here. And we have our special guest, John Catheline. Thank you for joining us, John. We really appreciate it. Thanks for being on again. And I know that you've been chomping at the bit to talk some horror stuff with us. So we are going to be talking about horror directors, our top horror directors, why we chose these people. I think there's like 16 to 18 on the list. It's a long list, so some of these we're going to go through pretty quickly, and some of them are going to deserve a little more time because their amount or volume of work is great compared to some of these others who've done one or two films that were just fantastic. And we'll go from there. But I'm going to do some quick things in the background. While I'm doing that, if anybody wants to discuss anything in horror, any horror director that they thought deserved to be on the list or at least deserved an honorable mention that did not make it to the list, feel free to do so now.
Oh, actually had one.
Really?
I think you got to give a nod to Lloyd Kaufman because, I mean, Trauma, albeit independent horror, it's been 40 plus years, you know, and the guy's like giving us Toxic Avenger, Sergeant Kabuki Man, Terror Firmer, albeit some of those movies are awful, but they're fun though, you know, and I'm a fan, I'm not going to lie. And the same thing with Full Moon and Charles Band, movies like Ghoulies and Troll and Puppet Master. I love that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, Full Moon Entertainment, great stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll back you a little bit on Kaufman there. You know, I'm going to name drop a little bit, but my buddy John Karius had a very significant role in the Poltergeist.
Oh, nice.
Which is a classic Lloyd Kaufman thing.
Oh, yeah. Night of the Chicken Dead. You got to love it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to go with two great directors. You named some good ones, especially Ghoulies, I think, is totally underrated.
Absolutely.
Two directors. I'm going to take it a little more personally, be slightly insulted they did not make the list, one of which is Neil Marshall, our buddy from across the pond, director of Dog Soldiers, The Descent, and Doomsday. Three fantastic movies just in a row. I'm really a huge fan of Neil Marshall. I think he's an outstanding horror film director. And
he did the Ouija board sequel, correct?
I don't recall.
I think he.
I just think of those three when I think of Neil Marshall. He's kind of just disappeared, unfortunately, in a lot of ways. And then one that I think is I'm a little more surprised didn't make our list is the great F.W. Murnow. Because a film like Nosferatu really was the first horror movie of its kind, and The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. And I feel like a lot of horror film directors, especially people who make monster movies, all of them one way or another are kind of inspired by F.W. Murnow. And I don't even know if this genre would exist without him, especially the way it is now. So those are definitely two I would have liked to have seen on this list. But also at the same time, we have a lot of excellent directors we're going to be talking about, so I'm sure I'll get over it eventually.
Yeah, get over it, Darren.
One person I wanted to mention as well was Sean Cunningham.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's a great one. Yeah.
Sean Connery, yes. He did a lot of James Bond films. He's in Indiana Jones. Sean Connery, yes.
Yes, absolutely. You know, Friday the 13th, A Stranger is Watching. He produced the first two House movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. I love those movies, by the way, man. Love them.
Fantastic.
And of course, him and Wes Craven came together. Next year's going to be the 50th anniversary. Last House on the Left.
Yes. That's a good one, man.
Yeah. Last House on the Left. I know our friend Alan is always a big fan of it. He loves Wes Craven's like 1970s movies. You know, that Last House on the Left, and what was the other? The Hills Have Eyes.
Yeah.
And I get it, like I do. I just feel like there's been a lot of, but you know, I don't want to spoil anything because, as I'm sure you can see in my photo behind us, Wes Craven, I'm sure, will be brought up, which should be no surprise to anybody.
You know what? To back up what you said though, in like those movies in the 70s, you can push things farther to the limits. So those were like very overbearing on the sexual part of things, and like they could be kind of they're give or take. A lot of people don't like that kind of stuff now. You couldn't get away with that. Oh my.
Well,
it's
Well, you remember the the original I Spit on Your Grave? That's no joke.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You know what? Even the remakes they made, they pushed the limits on those too.
Hey, remember when I promised Kevin that I was going to do that for you?
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm watching the opening to SpongeBob.
Let's see if you can
find it, though. I'm Captain Don. Come on.
Hey,
I got a bone to pick with you guys.
Hey, John, since I have an unbelievably tremendous long-term memory, I want to take a moment right now I want you to take a moment right now and please explain to us one of your all-time favorite horror movie heroines, and that would be the great Tiffany Shepis.
I love her.
Tell me what it is about Tiffany Shepis that you appreciate the most.
Hey, Maria.
You know what? Honestly, I think I've liked just about everything she's in. Even if the movie itself is bad, I think she stands out. Mm-hmm. And I always felt like she needed a bigger platform. When she did the small role in the Night of the Demons remake, I thought that was great for her because it was kind of a bigger platform. But I would even like to see her end up in like a Rob Zombie movie because I think she would fit perfectly in that. But I would just like to see her do something bigger horror-wise. I think she deserves it, honestly. I just always liked her work. And she's a super sweet person, too. I had a chance to meet her not too long ago. So, very nice person.
Rob Zombie's cool, too. I met him and Cheryl Zombie years ago when we used to work at the
Nice.
Airplane. They're very down-to-earth people. Very down-to-earth.
That's cool. Very cool.
Yes, there was this one time I put money into it's called The Perfect House. Had some of your favorites, John. Like I take it you're a big Felissa Rose fan.
Yes, Jonathan Tierston was in that too. Yeah, that was actually a really good movie. To me, it was a hidden gem. I really liked that.
You can see my name in the credits as a special thanks.
Nice. Nice.
Yes, we'll just drop names just obnoxiously now. You can roll your eyes at me. It's cool. Like it's fair. But I just, now that we're in horror film directors and stuff like that. Yeah. So a lot of those kinds of big names. Now, John Tierston, he was in the Return of the Living Dead, right? Was that his big?
He was in Sleepaway Camp.
He was in Sleepaway Camp. Okay. With
the original Sleepaway Camp?
Yes, he was in the fourth one too, Return to Sleepaway Camp. He came back for that one.
You know, nothing beats that original movie's twist. That's just so crazy.
Oh, dude. One of my favorite things to do is to watch that movie with people that have never seen it and then see the reaction when they see the end of it. Because their face looks like hers. They're like, what the hell just happened? And I love it. And I just laugh at man every time. I think it's great.
Better to put that twist at the end, unlike in The Crying Game when they put it in the middle. It's like, I got another hour of this. They don't call it The Crying Game for nothing, people.
That's true.
So can you name maybe some of your favorite horror films, John? Since you're our guest tonight, that you have personally been in yourself.
That I've been in?
Yeah.
I had a really good time doing The Bone Collector. I was this huge furry with antlers and white eyes that I could not see out of. I was guided around all day, and I was following voices and directed on what to do. But I had a blast doing that. I've been a zombie in several movies, one called Cannibal Tick. I've been a demon in several movies. Like, I love doing that kind of stuff. I love being the monster or the victim. I kind of get stereotyped sometimes as the tough guy. Okay. And I don't mean that in a bad way whatsoever. Right. But I can do comedy too, and I love doing little stuff like that. Or I want to be the victim. Like, I want to be the one that's getting killed, which I love every minute of that too. Anything horror related, I am in 100%.
If I ever got cast in a horror movie and I got, the third person to get killed in the movie, you better believe me, I'm going to give a nice, memorable death scene, right. Being murdered, being gutted up. I make sure I give a great scream and
So Kevin, I have a question for you. Since we're talking about horror film directors, what do you think makes a good horror film director?
Well, that's a good question, Darren. I believe horror in some respects is like the opposite of comedy. It's all about timing. If you time it wrong, the scare isn't going to work. Just like with the joke and the punchline, if it doesn't come in time or it doesn't make sense, you're done. So horror is about timing. The atmosphere has to be right. The setup has to be right. The situation has to be right just in time. The scare has to come out at the right time where you least expect it. And sometimes fake outs are pretty cool, but sometimes the fake outs become cliche. That, okay, yeah, a little bird just flew by, or a dog, or the cat, and and they okay, here comes the killer from the left side. So you got to do things to mix things up because people have seen it so many times. So that's the key. You got to do something original, something that really is psychological, that gets to your head and makes you think like, oh my God, wow. Like, for example, Candyman. You kind of think twice about saying that name 5 times in front of a mirror.
What name?
It does kind of,
What are you talking about?
I'm only going to say it one more time. The Candyman.
Right.
Okay.
And that's it. No more.
That's it.
Just checking.
Well, it's funny. I met Tony Todd a couple of times. He's a very nice fella.
And he was in what? Your favorite horror movie, right?
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Well, that movie is one of my favorite movies. It's one of them.
There you go.
Okay.
It's funny. He was in the Night of the Living Dead remake, if you remember.
Yes.
In 1990.
I mean, why can't we just call him like the Treat Man or the Chocolate Man?
Wait. I got it. I know. No. I know how to do this. Daniel Robitaille. How's that?
Aha, there you go.
Guys,
yes,
an important announcement. My mom and dad are in the room. Everybody say hi to my mom and dad.
Howdy.
Hi, Mr. and Mrs. McKinney. How you
hi,
doing?
Mom. Hi, Dad. Ray has joined us. He says, hello, team. Ray in the house. So, hey, Ray, thanks for joining. Jarrett says, I hope Brett Ratner made the list. Well, Jarrett, tune in and to find out, buddy. And by the way, those that stay till the end of the podcast, we're going to be doing the Wheel of Fun. We're going to be giving away some stuff. We're going to be giving away a mystery horror movie. And we are also going to be giving away this trade of Swamp Thing. And
nice.
Mark Millar, Grant Morrison type stuff in here. So it's some freaky deaky gothic fun, guys. So we'll be
creepy.
If you win, we'll be sending this your way. And I think that's it, unless Kevin wants to give away some candy. I don't know. It's up to Kevin, though.
Hey, speaking of candy, John, did you see the remake of that movie?
I did.
What do you think?
You know what? I'm a sucker for the originals, man. I love that he had that small, albeit, role in the movie, but to me, that was my favorite part. For me, when you do a remake like that, or any remake in general, when you bring back one of the originals from the ones that we actually really enjoy, that makes it more enjoyable to me and probably the other people that watch it too.
Halloween Kills definitely does that. That kind of surprised me.
Oh, man. Yeah, absolutely. Like, it took you, what was cool about that was, in 2018, we saw Laurie's trauma of 40 years. So when Halloween Kills, now we get to see Sheriff Brackett. We get to see Nurse Chambers. We get to see Tommy Doyle. Lindsay Wallace. Yeah. We get to see what their lives have been like for the last, 40 years. And then they even take the smallest a character like Lonnie, and we see that he had an interaction with Michael Myers too that we never knew about, which is super cool to see that. So like, I love when they do stuff like that. To me, it just makes the movie more enjoyable. Like when they made the one of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was supposed to be the sequel. And they brought back Gunnar Hansen and they brought back Bill Moseley and stuff. And they put him in that opening scene in the house. That, to me, that was cool as hell. And then obviously the ending of it was like, what the hell just happened? Like it just kind of like it lost itself throughout that. But I love that opening scene though.
Right. Yeah. So we were just talking about, it looks like Halloween and the Candy Blank remake.
Robitaille, Daniel Robitaille movie. There you go.
Yeah,
that's right.
Because I mean, and I'll tell you, John. Speaking of a remake / sequel that I have to be honest, I absolutely despised was the new Wrong Turn.
Right there with you. I thought that was okay. Listen, if it would have been anything other than Wrong Turn, maybe. You could call it Left Turn for all I care, but Wrong Turn, no. Those movies, the first one, the kill when she's up in the tree and he hits her with the axe like right in the mouth, and then you see the pupils and then the body falls. That's phenomenal. It's a great kill in a horror movie. But that remake was just, it should have been called Wrong Turn. It was, I don't know what the hell it was. It was like Clan of the Cave People or something like that. Like it was not Wrong Turn whatsoever. I didn't like it.
It really reminded me of, it's like, if you know the twist in The Village, it's like, if the twist in The Village happened and that movie was 50 minutes longer.
Yep.
It's like, bruh, what, because our friend Alan, he messaged me, literally, he had to tell me this in the middle of the night on a work night. Like, Darren, what the hell is this?
Hello, Stephanie. Hello, Ricky. Thanks for joining us.
Hey.
Wrong Turn. That's the one with what is her name? Elijah Dushku or whatever.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
yeah.
it had the guy, I don't know his name, but he was also in Dexter. He played one of the cops. And
trying to think of I know who you're talking about too, and I can't think of his name.
He had the piercing blue-eyed dude that was in Wrong Turn. He was like the male lead, basically. When I saw him in The Wrong Turn, I was like, this guy is phenomenal. Like, I loved him in that movie. I thought he was great. I was like, this guy's going places. Like, he is just great. And then he was in Dexter, and he did a really good job, but, like, he kept getting thinner and thinner, and I kept looking to, like, Googling if he was sick or if he was just, like, doing a lot of coke, or, I couldn't figure it out, and they never really said, so I don't know, and then he just kind of disappeared after that.
Got touched by an old gypsy, and that could have happened, too.
That definitely could have happened.
You made him mad. Look out.
Kevin always wishes for an old gypsy to touch him, but not in the correct
dude, I would take it too. I'm not gonna lie. Rub my damn face. Let me have it. Be a lot easier.
And speaking of, we're as we're waiting for the room to fill up a little more here. Speaking of great characters with candy in their name in horror films, what about the great Candy Cane in one of my favorite movies with our buddy Paul Walker and Steve Zahn, Joyride?
I really enjoy that movie. It kind of keeps you like on the edge of your seat once it gets going, man. And I relate it to like remember The Hitcher with Rutger Hauer and C. Thomas Howell?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's kind of can relate it to that in a way, but like over the top more. But I love Joyride. I think it's great, and his voice. Who doesn't imitate the voice? Come on, everybody.
Cane.
Right, exactly.
I mean, you're talking about J.J. Abrams when no one knew who J.J. Abrams was, and. Right. I mean, it's weird because, obviously Donald and I have talked about this a lot. He and I are both big fans of the movie Breakdown with Kurt Russell. I mean, it's kind of the exact same storyline, too. But it's just awesome. It's a real forgotten kind of pseudo-modern classic. So I have the Blu-ray floating around here. Yeah, it's good stuff, guys. And
and John, we can't forget Jeffrey Reddick, Final Destination creator.
Oh, yeah. Another series of movies that had to be very creative with kills because there was like 6 of them in the franchise.
Yes,
and you can't repeat it.
Way more than you ever thought there would be, to be honest, based upon
right.
Which is why it made the list for us on our top horror franchises. I felt like it deserved it. It was one that we were on the fence with, and then ultimately we were like, no, we got to put that in.
Right.
Yeah,
they had some crazy kills on those movies.
Let's go ahead and get started. It looks like we've got a lot of people in here, and so people in the chats, if you have questions or you want to mention things and stuff, or just chat with each other, feel free to. I want to bring up really quickly that again we are giving away some prizes. We're giving away a mystery movie that we will send to you if you win. You have to wait till the end. You have to be here till the end. If you pop in at the end. At least be here for like 15 minutes or so, and then we'll add you to the list. We are also giving away a trade of Swamp Thing. This trade is courtesy of Comic Book Shop We Can Be Heroes in Chatsworth, California. So Bill, Julio, thank you for donating this trade that we are giving away tonight to one lucky Podcast View winner that will be getting this really awesome, cool looking, like gothic horror-esque trade with Swamp Thing losing his shit. So excited to give this away.
Is that based off the movie or something else?
No, it's just based off. Basically, this is part of the Vertigo line. So
okay.
Swamp Thing's been around for a long time. He's been around since the '60s. And I think it's the 60s, right, Kevin? Late 60s?
No, early 70s.
Early 70s. He's been around since the early 70s, so the movie was based off of his creation in the comics, and this is just an independent story of that. But I know that they tried to streamline him a little bit more there for the comics when the movies came out. And they do that pretty much with every character in every comic book company, to be honest. They always try to align them with that character in the movie to make people interested, which is fine, I guess, as long as they don't keep it that way. Chris 2K, thanks for joining, buddy. Good to see you.
Hey, it's Chris.
Good to see you, Chris. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, good to see you, sir. we are going to, one more thing I want to bring up is we do have a few sponsors. And I would be remiss to not mention these wonderful sponsors that we have here at the Real Short Box. First one is Half's Hot Sauce. Now, Half's Hot Sauce is a great Ohio company, Ohio proud hot sauce company. And basically, they're taking up the entire screen, and that's okay. We're just going to talk about them for a second. You can see here in a really nice photo, they have Killer Kiwi. That's a real hot one. They have Sugar Rush Peach, which is a delicious peach hot sauce. Hot Tropic is another one that's got some heat to it. Indigo Fire is a blueberry hot sauce. It's got a real nice balance, real good taste. Main Squeeze is a rhubarb watermelon hot sauce that I have yet to try, but I will be trying here actually probably within the next month. I'm super excited about it. And on the end is the ever tasty, ever wonderful Painapple that I highly recommend as well. So those that are interested in hot sauces, please check out Half's Hot Sauce. I'm going to post their website up in the chats and a coupon code where you can save 10% off. And while I do that, Kevin, what was your favorite Half's Hot Sauce?
That blue one, that bluish one.
The bluish one. The
The
Indigo Fire, the blueberry one?
Yeah, thank you. Indigo Fire, thank you.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Really, really solid, really solid.
What's your favorite one?
Mine would probably be the Sugar Rush Peach. And the new one that they have are newer, which is called the Trippy Pickle, which isn't in that photo, but it's phenomenal. I love it so much. Okay, and the 10% off code for that website is Donald Hiccups. Go figure.
Yeah, what's going on with that?
Yeah, it's because hot sauce makes me hiccup. I don't like if it's too hot, I hiccup. If I have something too hot, I hiccup instantly. It's just weird. It's a weird thing.
That's the best promo code ever, by the way.
Yeah, it's pretty good. He did a good job with it. I couldn't argue with him on that. The other sponsor that we have is Splattered Frog Brewing. Now, they are a Texas-based brewing company.
Star State.
Wonderful, wonderful guy, Josh Turner, that owns this company. It's a startup, so he's working on his brews, perfecting his recipes and stuff. And I must say, I've had some, and the two that I've had have both been wonderful. So I'm extremely happy to have experienced his tasty brews, and I hope to be able to do that more in the future. Now, in the meantime, to help him brew more and experiment more, he's looking to sell some merch. Now, if you can see in front of you, he's got a great t-shirt. He's got a great hat. With our coupon code, SHIPPED, that's including shipping, you can get these shirts for about just under $20, or the hat for just under $20. Now, he has the trucker hat with the mesh in the back and a regular cotton back as well with no mesh, just a regular full, sealed hat. He has pint-sized glasses now, and I hear he's getting a few other things in soon in his shop, so you can purchase those. Now, with him, it's splatteredfrog.com. Let me put that up there. And the coupon code, you can actually save 20% off with the coupon code, which is great. And that coupon code is just Shortbox. And that's in there as well. Chris says he wants his lips and mouth to burn like fire. It turns him on. Okay, Chris, well, there's a few in there. The Hot Tropic, I think, would do that for you, buddy. You should definitely try that one. And the Killer Kiwi is no joke. So try that, too. So there we go. That's Half's Hot Sauce and Splattered Frog. Please check them out, guys. Some great companies, some great sponsors. We like to help them out, so if you can help them out, that would be very much appreciated. Otherwise, let's go ahead and get started here. Who would like to mention just one? Just bring one up and we'll discuss it. I think we all have the list, so we can each of us just pull one off the list. If we want to go down the line, that's fine too, if it makes it a little easier for you guys. I know what the number one I'd listed is. It's not a ranking by any means. It's just us listing our favorites.
All right. Randomly, Toby Hooper. How's that?
Oh, yeah.
Toby Hooper. That's a great choice.
God rest his soul.
And why did Toby Hooper, why was he deserving of being on this list?
Well, I don't know if John can say it, but I can say it first. 1974, a gritty, low-budget movie, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I mean, to me, that original still holds up. To me, it's the best of all the movies, no matter what they do as far as, bigger budgets, better effects. It's just that almost like a cinema verite style. It almost looked like a documentary in a way. These four or five kids are going out in the middle of nowhere in Texas, and they encounter this crazy family, and then that lone survivor. You just see the terror in their eyes. The camera just focuses on the psychological terror, because the movie's really not that gory. It really isn't. No. It's just psychological terror and suffering that this lady is going through. She goes from sanity to insanity by the end of the movie.
Very true. You know what? For me, one of his ones that I feel is super underrated is The Funhouse. Absolutely love that movie. You got a group of kids who decide to sleep overnight in a funhouse. That's a bad idea from the start. What they find out, the guy who's dressed like Frankenstein actually is a monster underneath this mask, and he starts to kill these kids, along with the guy who is like his, I don't know, handler, you could call him. But that's a super underrated movie because it's awesome. Then again, the 80s produced so many good horror movies that I feel like that's why it kind of like got thrown under the rug a little bit,
Yeah, and obviously, I think with Toby Hooper, I mean, as Kevin would say, that I love Chainsaw Massacre because the terror is so real, which I think a lot of films have tried to capture and have failed epically. It's just you can't do it. So you've added a certain hokiness to it. But if we're going to talk about a great Toby Hooper film, I mean, we have to talk about the Poltergeist, obviously.
Yes.
The Poltergeist might be the perfect supernatural horror film. I mean, there's so many elements to it. There is a storyline and some mystery to it as far as like why these things are happening. I think what really sets Poltergeist apart from everything else is the Zelda Rubinstein, the actress, the Claire one. She really separates it completely makes it into a completely different movie. The Poltergeist is so rich. There's so many layers. You could watch that movie so many times and catch so many different things. And you have to be a great director to do that, because a really good director is super anal retentive with details. Yep. And the details of the Poltergeist are they're priceless. Every tiny little thing, setting a tone, a mood. I mean, there's very few movies in that category as far as just like a perfect horror film.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And then
a great cast in that movie too. Overall, the cast was great.
And if you're in Toby Hooper, obviously you can talk about Invaders from Mars, which is just terrible. But it's also like totally awesome at the same time.
Right? And those are the best kind of movies.
To me, like, Toby Hooper is always having fun when he's making films, and I think that's important.
Yeah.
And the second movie, I think, is underrated, in my opinion.
Poltergeist?
Yeah.
Oh, totally.
Especially with the preacher, Reverend Cain. That guy that guy looks
creepy as hell.
Exactly. When I was a kid, I was scared. Yeah. Even now to this day, when you look at him, you're scared. It's just terrifying.
That's the last film.
That tequila scene.
Oh yeah. When he drinks the worm and then yep.
That's the last film horror film that I saw that actually legitimately gave me a nightmare, and I watched it like 5 years ago for the first time.
Nothing wrong with that.
So like I was like, wow, like I was impressed with it being in my brain, on my mind while I was sleeping. Like, it was that good. It really influenced my thoughts while I was sleeping, and that's rare for me. It's rare for me to remember my dreams. It's rare for me to dream. Even rarer for me to remember them, and to have a nightmare is super, super rare. So it got all three of those going for me, which is that says something special about that film.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm gonna set up a litmus test that I'm gonna come back to a lot tonight. You can tell how great the Poltergeist is by how terrible the remake was. The remake had no magic, no energy, no originality. It really is a massive insult to the original film in many ways.
Yeah. Hey, Hakeem.
It's exactly what you said. It's hard to recreate something that was made so good.
Yes.
That nowadays, a lot of stuff is CGI, where back then it was a practical effect. Or in some cases, if you believe the stories that they tell you, those were real skeletons that
actually
popped out of the pool, They were. Who the hell is going to do that today? You can't.
No.
You absolutely can't. So like, you look at the movie itself, the original, it's so hard to top. You just can't do it.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. Toby was masterful in a way that did not require... He was able to give you horror without true horror, I guess, if that makes sense. He could scare you with a scene without showing you much, and then show you everything, and you're absolutely out. You know, you're just stunned, and you can't move. And it's interesting how he was able to build that in his directing career, and it's important to note. So that's Toby Hooper, and we're talking, you know, Poltergeist, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and your very underrated one that you were talking about, which is
the Funhouse.
Funhouse.
Yeah.
Not to be mistaken with Clown House.
No, well, that's a whole nother story. Whole nother story.
Yeah.
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 Something like that.
Yeah. That none of those movies made the list, by the way, for obvious reasons.
No.
Yes. Oh, and I will say on a personal note, I did watch, actually Maria and I watched Psycho Goreman last night for the first time.
You know what? I like that, man. I enjoyed that movie. It was fun.
That movie's special, buddy.
It is. That's a better word for it. You're right.
Special in a lot of ways. It is the most unique horror film I think I've ever... I can't... It's hard to explain.
No.
You just have to watch it.
Yeah.
And
what
I don't...
you just said explains it 100% though.
Yeah, and I don't like a lot of gore, but I loved the film. I loved its ingenuity when it came to the gore, in other words. I appreciated it, and it didn't make me nauseated like a normal horror film with a lot of gore would, to be honest. I'm a bit of a wuss with that. I don't like a lot of blood and stuff and guts and things, so that worked out. But I digress.
Yeah, just so our audience is aware, speaking of all those terrible things, the human centipede will not be here tonight on this podcast, so you might as well go somewhere else if you were hoping to get that.
Oh. We've got Julio popped in. He said he just went to the Poltergeist house last Thursday.
Oh, nice.
That's super cool.
That's the Simi Valley, I believe.
Yes. That is one place I did not get a chance to make it out to when I was out there, and I was kind of bummed about that.
Damn. Well, Julio, you'll have to tell me where that's at or show me, and then maybe I'll go and take a picture for John so he can...
There you go.
And Photoshop himself in. Sean says... but Spielberg might have actually secretly directed Poltergeist. Now, we don't know that, Sean, so we can't say for sure.
Yeah, there's been rumors about that there may be some truth to that.
There are some elements of Spielberg in there, I can totally tell. But he was also a producer, so that would make perfect sense.
Right.
And he said, I didn't get very far into Psycho Goreman. Well, sorry, Sean. You missed out a little bit, I think. Maybe a little bit.
Give it another shot. You might like it.
Yeah, give it another try. It's unique in a lot of ways.
But do not give the movie Killer Condom a try. You will just be disappointed.
No.
You will just be the fact that you know that movie, John, just tells me PhD in horror.
I'm sorry. I openly admit it. I know it. It's terrible.
You're a PhD in horror.
Okay, so somebody else want to bring up another one?
Let's see. You know what? I got to go with this one just because Jordan Peele, I feel like he gets a lot of hate, but I really enjoyed Get Out. I thought Us was really good. And he's got a new one coming out next year called Nope, which you already know is going to be something.
Nope.
I don't get the hate for him. I like his movies because they are unique and they're different. And it's not just remaking something or repeating something we've already seen. He's given you a story and they're pretty off the wall. Like, I mean, Get Out was something, man. Like, I didn't, as it went on, you're watching it, like, I didn't expect what was going on. Like, that threw me for a loop. And the same thing with Us. Like, I want to say midway through, I kind of figured it out, but the average person is not going to do that. We like horror, so it's something that we kind of, I can't speak for you guys, but when I watch a movie, I kind of analyze certain stuff and watch for certain things, so then you can kind of figure it out, and it doesn't ruin it for you if you're right or if you're wrong. But I don't know why he gets so much hate. I even enjoyed his part doing like the narrator part for the Twilight Zone. I don't know why they get. I just really don't understand why he gets so much hate from.
I mean, he's not trying to be Rod Sterling, of course. He's not trying to replace him or anything like that.
Nor will he ever be.
Yeah, he knows better.
Julio says Simi Valley for sure for the Poltergeist house, and he said, no problem, I got you guys. So excellent. Thank you, Julio.
I most certainly understand why he gets all the hate. I think whether it's fair or not is a different question. But I definitely think he gets a lot of hate for the same reason a lot of people in the get a lot of hate, because Jordan isn't necessarily pushing himself. Other people are pushing him, and those people are obnoxious. I mean, this is just kind of how this industry works. You know, I mean, there's just, when you feel like you watch, like when I watch Get Out, it definitely rang very similar to the Stepford Wives to me in a lot of ways. But I don't think that's an insult. It just is what it is. And I think some people were declaring a movie that some people viewed as kind of a B movie is overly aggressive with how much of a classic people thought that it was. Now, as I watched it go on, like, I could appreciate Jordan's talent as a director, like some of his shot selection that he used, the way that he was using backgrounds, especially to kind of convey certain messages and stuff, little subtle things like the different colored cereals, you know, things like that. Like, I can kind of appreciate what he was trying to do. I think that if you watch a movie like that and you're just there to enjoy it, you'll get a lot better result, in my opinion, than overanalyzing every fine little detail. 'Cause I just don't think it's really that deep. But that's just me. I might be wrong, but I think he just gets the hate because the people around him are kind of shoving him down your throat, and people are just naturally resistant to that.
And you're 100% right. It's the same thing like watching wrestling. You have a guy that they feel you, like you said, shoved down your throat, and then the fans will turn against him because of that. So I understand what you're saying 100%. My thing is, for a person like him, I feel like he's given, again, kind of like a unique twist on things, whereas everybody complains about remakes and everything else, where we're getting something a little bit different from a director like him. So that's where I'm confused on that. But I agree with you too, though. Like, I understand when you say
what was his second movie? The second one.
His second one?
Yeah.
Us.
Us. That's right.
Yeah.
That one I thought. Okay, so I liked Get Out more, but I thought Us had a more unique story to tell. It just told it in a way that kind of didn't give me enough. Like, I'm the type of guy where you got to start piecing things together for me, or else I'm going to wander off. Like, I need to start trying to get clues and figure out things, or else my ADD brain is like, nope, what's that? Oh, you know. So for me, but I did love the idea, the concept behind it, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody, because again, it is a newer film, you know, within the last couple years. So I don't want to like say what it all is about, but I think it's worth watching and taking note. And I think his films are worth watching and taking note. I just think that him being on this list, it was a little hard for me to see him put up against all these other great directors that have proven themselves time over time and again and again and again. But I also know that Jordan is a great producer, and I know that he's a phenomenal actor. So I have confidence in the man and his capabilities. So that's ultimately what made, me, realize, okay, maybe he does deserve this spot. And Darren's right also that it did seem like everybody was pushing him as this is the guy, this is the next guy, this is the next big thing. And John, you're right with the wrestling thing. They do that with comic book writers too. They'll be like, this is the next big writer. He's the next big thing. You guys have to watch out for what he's doing next. And then next thing you know, everybody's buying Colin Bunn stuff when all the superhero shit sucked, but his horror stuff was on fire. So it's very interesting, and I'm relating it to the comic book world because this is what I do. But it's very interesting how a positive note on people can also be a negative. It is what it is. I mean, we're all, and I think that comes from a skeptical society, but also from it also can come from a society of people that they hate us because they ain't us. They're jealous for particular reasons and stuff. Also, on a more minuscule level, of course.
But look, I totally get it. Sorry, I was just saying, I totally get it because, like, William Friedkin didn't even make this list, despite the fact The Exorcist is arguably the best horror film ever made. But yet Jordan Peele is on here, who I don't know has had the same impact that Billy Friedkin did. So right. I can totally understand what Donald's saying, and it makes a lot of sense, and I think that's a very fair way to put it. But also, too, like, even though I don't enjoy a lot of Jordan Peele's movies, I respect what he does. He makes a certain type of movie that I can definitely see why people enjoy them.
You could argue Brian De Palma could have been on this list too.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So let me ask you guys a question real quick. So a lot of the directors on this list, every now and then they have a movie that doesn't really catch on right away, right? But then they become that cult following after, we'll say, 3, 4 years, 5 years, even 10 years down the road, right?
Yeah.
Do you think Jordan Peele has that ability to have these films become a cult following down the road, even though people may be iffy on them now?
Absolutely, because I think there are a lot of movies that are way ahead of their time sometimes. Yeah. I mean, we look at this all the time. I remember I was watching Roger Ebert, and they said, Roger, has there ever been a movie, looking back on your career, that you were unfair to? He said, only one, Groundhog Day. He just did not think Groundhog Day was brilliant until years had passed.
Right.
I felt,
and he watched it over and over and over and over.
Yeah. So I feel like a movie like Us, it's pretty high concept. It may catch on, but also it may be a dud. It's hard to say, but I definitely think sometimes the movie's ahead of its time. Sure.
And we've lost Donald. He's gone now.
Oh, didn't like my joke.
I laughed.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We've got a couple chat comments here real quick. So Julio says, you mean like Roman Reigns?
There you go. I can name a list of them, but yeah, he's absolutely right on Roman Reigns. Yes.
Snitsky.
Chris Duque says, Get Out was so good. Geez. Frank Huff says, hi. Hi, Frank. Thanks for joining.
Hey, Frank.
What's up, Frank?
Sean says, Get Out is scarier, more of a horror. Us is sort of an art film. I totally agree, Sean. Totally agree. Alex Benquita is with us. Those of you that do not know, Alex we recorded a podcast with Alex, not this past Friday, but the Friday before. And Alex, good news is has just gone live, so you can check it out. I'll send you the link here, buddy, here shortly. I was actually going to do that tonight after this. But glad that you can be on, so thank you. Alex wrote a very great horror miniseries for Scout Comics called Headless. And so definitely check that out if you can. You can, I believe it's available digitally. You can purchase it, or you can get the individual comics at your local comic book shop. J.R. Ainsworth popped in. He says, thanks, Kevin.
Hey, no problem.
Alex also says, The Exorcist is amazing. Scorch says, I've never understood how the servants in The Exorcist could sleep under the same roof as the demon-possessed girl. If I woke up at night and she was in my room, I'd have a heart attack. That makes sense.
Listen, I would have, if I was if I was in that house and a person that I knew, loved, what have you, whatever, was possessed, I'm going to throw you some bread, some water. I'm leaving the house and I'm calling a priest from a payphone and I'm out. Like, I'm not staying there. I don't care how much I love you. I'm done. I'm out the door. See ya. I'll be back when you're done. That's it.
Yep. Totally agree. Sean says Hitchcock was considered a lowbrow pop director until Truffaut interviewed and wrote about him. And JR says Midnight Mass is very cool. I think he's talking about the Netflix series.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah, I've heard about it as well. It's from the same guy that did Haunting of Hill House, I think, was the one on Netflix. Okay. So he did that.
Oh God, I don't even. There's like 2 or 3 different ones, isn't there? Like, isn't there one of like Bly Manor or something like that too?
Yes,
I believe
that one came out. I didn't watch it because people kind of poo-pooed on it, but I am interested in seeing it regardless. I think I will at some point. But right now, I'm knee deep in the best horror zombie series I've ever seen in my entire life. And it is called.
Is it Day of the Dead? No? Okay.
Black Summer on Netflix.
Oh, I've heard that's really good. Yeah. Is
John,
there a second season of that out now?
Yes. John, you have to watch it. Season 1 is absolute fire. There is one episode that takes place almost, I think, entirely in a van, in like a minivan. Oh, wow. And it is the most tense episode of a series I've seen in forever.
Giving you those Cujo vibes, huh?
It's definitely giving you a lot of it's freaky and it's great, and I highly recommend it for those that haven't seen it.
Jamie King's in that, right? Isn't she one? I think she's in the
yes.
I don't know. If she's
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I got to work. I got to work with her on Escape Plan 3.
Did you?
Super nice person. Yes,
very cool.
Very nice lady.
Very cool. Did you know Julio Galvez from We Can Be Heroes Comics is actually in season 1 of Black Summer, and that's not real. It's not real. I'm being facetious, or I'm being a little cheeky. But there's a guy in there that I feel looks almost exactly like Julio. So I sent Julio a picture, and I was like, "What are you doing in this?" And he's like, "Yeah, dude, I'm in all kinds of stuff."
I completely understand his. I understand it, Julio, because from a guy who's been called Taz for the past, all my life, basically.
Yep, we talked about that.
I get it. I
understand. Yeah, absolutely.
Ooh, do I get to pick a director?
It's your turn.
Oh my!
Go for it.
I'm gonna go for a guy who is a total broken record. Everything he does is kind of the same, but it's also very, very awesome. That, of course, is George A. Romero.
Yes.
George Romero. Okay, so full disclosure, I'm just not a horror movie fan generally. I mean, there are horror films I like, but it's not really like my go-to at all. Romero, on the other hand,
sorry, I love this picture.
Romero, on the other hand, to me, is a very different category to me. George Romero is masterful when it comes to imagery and satire. And what really cracks me up, okay, so like the original Dawn of the Dead movie is the best zombie movie ever made, and in many ways not even close. I mean, it's just there's so much.
You can make the argument. We can make the argument for sure.
There's so much depth in that movie that it hits you over the head with a hammer, but it's also at the same time it's like super effective. I mean, the closing shot in the movie of all the zombies like walking around the mall aimlessly looking for merchandise, that's hilarious. I don't, but only a guy like him can really do that. Obviously, we've talked before about how Night of the Living Dead, a lot of people, we've talked on this show before about how he had an African-American / Black American lead actor, which was kind of a no-no at the time, or just not very common for that matter. And he's done all those kinds of things, but I feel like Creepshow is very underrated unless you're
yes.
Because the imagery is just classic. I mean, the whole idea of a Father's Day cake. I mean, the story, it's so stupid, but it's so cool at the same time. And Romero never puts me to sleep. Like, he was making a movie. It was called, I think it was Island of the Dead. It was the one that was after Land of the Dead. And I went down to the new, or not the new Bev, but it's over there like in West Hollywood, Beverly Hills. It was literally the only screen in the world that was playing this movie, Survival of the Dead. That's it. And I just went down there, and it was so enjoyable. Even his Land of the Dead movie was enjoyable. He was talking about, hey, what are we going to do to escape the zombies? We're going to go to Canada. I mean, it's hilarious to me. I don't know. Like,
what I liked about that is they evolved over time.
Yes.
They started to get smarter to things,
Yep.
I think that was what they called him Big Daddy. He was in Land of the Dead, right?
Yeah.
He was like the lead zombie in that one. Yeah, it was so cool to see how like he evolved to be able to tell these other zombies kind of like stand back a little bit, like let's chill out.
Didn't they kind of hint to that? And was it Day of the Dead, where it was like it took place in an army bunker?
Yeah, they experimented on one of the zombies
I can't remember his name, but that zombie, they gave him a specific name.
Yes,
Bub. I think it was like Bub. I think it was Bub.
Bub or something like that. Yeah. And he would listen to music and stuff, and he could like speak and things. So yeah, they alluded to that. So I liked that it was showing that you had this kind of thing evolve, and it was like, oh shit. So are they able? Like, did we kill all these people for no reason? Could they have been healed or fixed, or like, is there? It makes you wonder.
Diary of the Dead, which came after Land of the Dead, I actually liked. That was pretty cool. It kind of had that
found footage.
Found footage look to it, but that was pretty cool. I actually liked Diary of the Dead. Survival of the Dead, I actually never seen before.
Yeah.
They came out afterwards.
The evolution is at the end they start eating horses. So like they've now switched to animals. Now, what kind of is interesting to me about this, I took a meeting with George's son many years ago, and he kind of made fun of his dad in a very nice kind of funny way. But he's like, "Hey, did you hear my father's got a new movie coming out?" I'm like, "Oh, really? What is it?" He's like, "Blank, blank, blank of the Dead." Because that's literally everything he does. But also, too, you just cannot, like I said, I love his imagery. His satire is so spot on. And because I think zombies are kind of stupid, but he makes them so interesting.
Now,
he makes human characters real interesting, too.
There's a series that Heavy Metal was doing called, I think it's called Rise or The Rise, if I recall. And it is a comic book series that I think they took the notes of Romero, and I think his son is writing it, if I recall. I'm not 100%. Don't quote me on this, but I think his son is writing it. And it's through Heavy Metal Comics, and it's all over Ohio, by the way, John. You can grab an issue anywhere you want to go. But out here in California, good freaking luck. Like, I have the hardest time getting anything from that company, from Heavy Metal. Even when I ordered directly from their website, it's been 2 months and they still haven't shipped any of the stuff that I ordered. So, like, yeah, like, so I have the hardest time trying to get this series. And I really want to read it because it's supposed to be like some type of a continuation or a private story moment revolving around the dead and, Night of the Living Dead, Day of the Dead, things like that. So I'm very curious as to where it's going and what it's doing, but I'm not going to read any more into it until I can get a hold of it.
That's cool from the movie side. The Day of the Dead characters, the survivors from that movie, are going to be in Night of the Living Dead 2. So you're actually going to see what happens like 30-something years later.
Yeah, like that Halloween formula. Yeah.
Right.
No, it's very cool. And one last thing on Romero I want to point out. For those of you out there that are really big fans of zombies, George Romero, I can't invented the modern zombie. And basically, he created all the rules. Zombie rules. So, like, you have to have a pioneer. And I'm really glad that we picked one who's from Pennsylvania.
Yes. Yeah. Pittsburgh proud, if I recall.
Yes.
That's right.
Go Steelers.
You definitely hit the nail on the head with Creepshow, though, because I love horror anthologies. Some of them, because some of them are really bad, too.
Sure.
But Creepshow 1 and 2, they're fun. They're just absolutely fun movies. Like you said, some of the stories are way over the top.
Yeah.
But like Father's Day is great. I mean, it just is. Like, and you look at Creepshow 2, look at the ending. Thanks for the ride, lady. It's so stupid, but it's fun. Like, it's so much fun, man. Same thing with The Raft. Like, that'll make you see like a lake or a pond or something. If I see some shit floating, I'm not going in there. Not going.
Nope.
Not doing it.
Nope. Smart.
Mm-hmm.
Remember to tell him to call you Bobby.
We got some comments here. Janet popped in. Hey, Janet, thanks for joining. Sean says Night of the Living Dead is top 5 favorite. Julio says Dawn of the Dead, my second favorite movie of all time.
Wow.
Alex says the fireworks stopped working! Exclamation point. And let's see. Julio says Kevin is a zombie on this show.
Of course.
You know what? Speaking of Dawn of the Dead, what did you guys think of the remake of that? I actually thought that was well done.
I actually liked it. I mean, it's
I loved it.
Different because they're almost like, I think they must have copied from 28 Days Later. These guys have some speed on them, but it was cool because we're living in a modern age. It kind of made sense for this modern time. But I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was a fun movie.
I mean, it might be like one of my 2 or 3 favorite Zack Snyder movies.
I was just about to say that it might be his best movie.
What a great debut! I mean, because I was going to be personally really irritated that they even remade such a great movie like that. But I think they did not copy the original, which really helped them a lot. And I was really appreciative of that. And Sarah Polley, I think, is very underrated as a film mind. And I know that she brought a lot to the table in that movie.
All right, guys.
I've always said, like, I don't care how long I walk on the stairs at the gym. You give me Romero zombies all day, and I will walk past them and be cool. You give me the zombies from the remake, and I'm done. Just tell me. This is not happening.
You get the Infected from 28 Days Later. You're definitely done.
Yeah.
Oh, done. Absolutely done.
Yeah, another great zombie series, actually. Really, really well done. Scorch says actor Keith Gordon joked that he got the part in Christine by agreeing to sleep with John Carpenter. Speaking of Carpenters, I don't know. I got nothing to segue into this. I'm just going to move on to the next director. I wanted to bring up a particular guy that I think really defined a different type of horror. And we're talking in the 30s primarily. And we're talking about James Whale.
Uh-huh.
James Whale, as you can see in the picture, directed such horror classics for Universal as Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, and The Invisible Man. He also did The Old Dark House and a few Man in the Iron Mask and a few other really well done, kind of tense horror-esque films. So I can see why it was easy for him to go back and forth, dip in and out. And he was actually very upset in his career because he became known as the horror director, particularly because he did those 3 films. And he didn't want to be pigeonholed that way. But my hat's off to James Whale, because if it wasn't for him, we would not have had the iconic Boris Karloff as Frankenstein's monster, which there's no better. Let's face it, there's no better Frankenstein's monster than Boris Karloff. And
many other stories have been derived from that Frankenstein's monster story. We would have, there's so many things, Jekyll and Hyde, Incredible Hulk, and some, you have so many different things that come from like the monster, the experiment.
And he proved that those Universal classics, that these ideas could be highbrow. It's not a slasher film. It's not a gory film. It's just scary. It's got a monster.
Science.
It's scary.
Yeah, science.
Exactly. So he did a brilliant job. I watched Frankenstein for the first time about 15 years ago, and I saw it at ArcLight as an employee. They did a screening there. I think it was for AFI or something. So I just walked in, got a free ticket, sat down, watched it, and was blown away at how well it was put together. Is the Bride of Frankenstein a better Frankenstein film than Frankenstein? One could argue that. Yeah, absolutely. Do I think that? No, I don't. Because I loved the first Frankenstein. I fell in love with that film, and that's something that I keep separate. But I feel like The Bride of Frankenstein does give us a little bit more about Frankenstein and gives us more of his personality, which is why I think people like that one better sometimes than the original Frankenstein. Plus, you get introduced to the bride for 2 seconds, so that's nice too.
But you won't entertain the quality of Andy Warhol's Frankenstein.
No.
I guess he's never seen this movie. Okay.
No, neither have I. I mean, could you argue that Frankenstein is like the original zombie in a way?
Maybe the Mummy.
He doesn't crave human flesh, though, and I think that's a big part of being a zombie.
Well, the zombie movies before the Romero movies, they were kind of different at the time. They were kind of like being controlled. Right.
They're more of the what I want to say of the Creole Nola kind of esque zombie, the voodoo doll kind of zombie that can be controlled
Serpent in the Rainbow.
Right. Yeah, that kind of thing. Exactly.
Man, nice mention there.
Yeah.
Nice one.
We've got some comments, so let's bring these up real quick. David Denenberg, thanks for popping in, David. He says,
hey, what's up, bro?
The Shopping Mall one, great movie. I think he's talking about Dawn of the Dead.
Dawn of the Dead.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Dawn remake beginning was great. The rest, meh. Agreed on Sarah Polly. Julio says Zach sucks. The baby scene was trash. Ricky says Frankenstein and Wife of Frankenstein are good movies. Well, The Bride or The Wife, either way. Sean says, I have The Old Dark House queued up right now. Sweet! And then he says, FYI, The Bride of Frankenstein maze at Horror Nights is the best maze this year. Sean, I will take your word on it. I'm not going to stand 3 hours in line to stand another 3 hours in line to go to one maze and enjoy it. So thank you for letting me know.
While wearing a mask.
I'm not doing
and paying $175.
Frisky Gringo, thanks for joining us, buddy. I appreciate it. Caleb, he says, that poor little girl. David says, I thought you got banned from AFI events, Donald. No, David, I did not. I actually got invited to the rooftop for drinks.
Actually, we all kind of got banned because the ArcLight does not exist.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. Ricky says, who did the Son of Frankenstein? I don't know offhand, Ricky.
Yeah, me either.
I'm more of a son of Godzilla.
Kevin, Research King, you do it.
I am about to tell you in 5 seconds.
Frisky says, significant other of Frankenstein, please, do better.
Roland V. Lee directed Son of Frankenstein.
There we go, Ricky. You got it. David says, touche, Darren. And Alex says, Nosferatu, the 1922 film, is great, too. Alex, you popped in late, but Darren did give reference to that. It didn't make our list, but Darren was very adamant about that being mentioned, and I can agree.
He was given some love tonight.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. So we're done here with Mr. Whale. Let's move on. Who has another one they want to bring up?
All right, I guess that's my turn. I think it's time we start going with some of the Italian masters. How about Dario Argento?
Yes.
I'm out on these.
Now, brother John, I know you've probably seen some of these movies, The Three Mothers, Suspiria, Inferno,
and Mother of Tears. Yeah.
What's interesting about Dario Argento is the use of colors in his horror movies. If you know what I'm saying.
Absolutely. Yes. I'm a big fan of Demons and Demons too. I absolutely love those movies.
Oh yeah, I have those on DVD. Oh yes. Actually, Mario Bava, I think, directed them, but I think Argento produced them.
Dude, Italian horror, Japanese horror, any kind of like international horror to me kind of sets the tone for American horror, because how many times have they taken those ideas and kind of Americanized them, and they've been nowhere near as good, because there's just something about them that just, again, you can't duplicate something like that because it's just done so differently. Like you said, the colors are amazing in those movies, especially Suspiria.
Yeah. Correction. Phenomenal. It's Lamberto Bava directed, not Mario.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you. But what wasn't Dario did have something to do with those two, though, right?
Yeah, I think he's like a producer.
Okay.
He's a producer.
Okay. I thought, okay. But yeah, the Italian horror is just like, they're on a different level. They really are. Like, even like stuff like obviously Japanese horror, like The Grudge and stuff. The American version, Same thing with The Ring, Ringu, and then you got The Ring.
Or The Eye, which I think is like a Thai horror movie.
Yeah, exactly. What's the movie Zombie with the
Volchi? You about Volchi?
Yeah. And you remember the scene with the
the scene. It's so slow, and it just it keeps going and going. You're not sure if it's really going to happen, and then it happens. And it's just like wow,
that stuff's phenomenal, man. And like those were practical effects. If they did that today, it'd be CGI as hell, and it would look nowhere near as good. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Great director, absolutely.
All right, I think who's next? Is it your turn, John, to pick?
Oh man, do I want to go with my heavy hitter? Or should
real quick to interject, guys, since we were talking about Argento, we have a few comments here for that.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Evan popped up, so hey, Evan, thanks for joining us. Sean says, I did not, nor would I wait 3 hours. Knott's is far better than Universal, though, in every way. I've heard that.
Love it.
I've actually heard that recently. Knott's Berry Farm has their amusement park has stepped up their horror game a lot, and it's supposed to be very entertaining.
Gary Farm.
Right. In Christmas time, it's Mary Farm. Alex says Suspiria is an incredible movie. We actually based a Headless cover in season 2 on Suspiria. Nice.
Oh, nice.
Julio says Argento was the man. Not so much now. Demons! ! Alex says Kuwaitian 1964 is a great Japanese horror movie. Kuwaitian? Yeah. And Frisky says Tubi and Shudder are scratching my Galileo itch for at least the last 2 years. Love the Italians. Giallo? I don't know. You pronounce it, Kevin. I was told I made one once accidentally. Yeah, it's on YouTube if you can find it under Rumble Spoon Productions. I dare you.
Yeah, Tubi and Shudder are great for horror movies, especially last year during the pandemic when it first started and everyone was truly locked indoors. I was definitely catching up on some old school horror movies.
Yeah, they've done a good job.
I don't know if we need to go A+ grade here, John, but definitely give us a guy that or somebody that's in maybe in the medium to medium high range.
I mean, you can kind of tell my favorite by the shirt, so I'm not going to say anything yet. We'll leave that one for later. Man, you know what? I got to jump in with Peter Jackson then.
All right.
Because
the New Zealander.
I know why.
Here's a guy who's known for Lord of the Rings, right? That's like his huge thing.
And King Kong.
Yeah, but he started out in horror, as we know.
Exactly. With a movie called Bad Taste, which is completely off the wall, right?
The cover is funny. It's so hilarious. My favorite from him, though, is Dead Alive, also called Brain Dead, which has one of the most gory scenes ever with the lawnmower scene.
Oh, my God.
I absolutely love it.
John, I watched it last year or the year before. Maria made me watch it. Yeah. She made me. And she forced me to. She held my eyes open like this, and she said, "You watch every second of this."
She gave you the Clockwork Orange.
I got so sick to my stomach, dude. I couldn't eat.
Oh,
like
man.
I was
there's
nauseous.
some nasty scenes in that movie. Yes.
Jesus Christ, that movie's
when the
effed up.
Remember when the ladies
Mom, don't watch that.
The pus flew into the guy's food and he kept eating. I was like, nasty as hell, man. But it's so over the top, gory, just nasty.
Gross.
You wouldn't expect it from him, you know?
I give Pete a nod for Frighteners.
Oh, of course, you can't forget that.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite horror film of his. I think it does a balance of comedy and horror and suspense so perfectly. You know what? Honestly, if Frighteners would have succeeded for Universal, we might not have gotten The Lord of the Rings. I'm going to be real. Because if Frighteners had succeeded, Universal was going to give the King Kong job to Peter Jackson. And if Peter Jackson had jumped on that early, it may have been more successful. I don't know. You know what I mean? And if that would have been successful, he would have been on other projects and wouldn't have been able to make The Lord of the Rings. So we might have never seen The Lord of the Rings in film. So thank Universal and thank Frighteners for failing at the box office. But I did see it in the theater 3 times because I loved that movie. Michael J. Fox was phenomenal. The supporting cast was phenomenal. Everything about that. Jake Busey was a great villain. It was just really, really good. A really good horror-esque film. With great special effects. Most of it hold up still to this day. My mom even loves it. She just said right now she loves that one. And Scorch says, yeah, but the main werewolf looks like the animatronic dog from Chuck E. Cheese. That's not the Frighteners, though. Right? There was no werewolf in the Frighteners.
No. He might be talking about, oh, man. Honestly,
The Howling? Maybe The Howling? I don't know.
The Howling was... Oh, who did The Howling? Now I'm going to have to look.
We'll be bringing that up. Don't worry.
Sitting right over here. That was...
If you want, I can bring that up right now.
That was... Oh, wow. Where the hell is it?
So Joe Dante.
Yes. Yep. I have The Howling right there.
Yep. Pulling up his picture as we speak because we might as well bring him up. We're talking about some classic films. Guys, you would be surprised at Joe Dante's breadth of work, like what he's done in movies.
Very impressive.
He's done Nightmare Cinema. He's done The Gremlins, which I still argue to this day is not a Christmas film. It is a horror film.
Yes.
He's done The Burbs. He's done The Howling, of course. He's done Piranha. He's done Twilight Zone, the movie, which I still think is rather horror-esque.
Child's Play, too, right?
By the way,
No. That was Tom Holland.
Right.
Tom Holland, thank you.
He did Gremlins 2, of course.
Do you guys remember who directed the sequel to Piranha? It was his very first movie.
I don't off the top of my head.
Wait, what's his name? Did Aliens. Is that him?
Yes. King of the World, James Cameron.
Thank you.
Got it.
Wow.
He did Sleepwalkers, Stephen King's Sleepwalkers. He did, I'm still going, Masters of Horror. He did the Slumber Party Massacre. Flesh and Blood, American Grindhouse, he was in that. He's done, dude, this guy's done everything. Joe Dante is an extremely undervalued, underappreciated horror director. Everything he does is tinged with a little bit of horror. Think about that animated film, Small Soldiers.
Oh, dude, I love that movie.
Right.
I'm not going to lie.
But it's great, but, there's a horror element to it where... the heroes that you thought were heroes are actually the villains and they're to kill you. And the grotesque, monstrous-looking creatures are actually the heroes, and they're the ones that are trying to save you.
The twist. Is that the twist?
This dichotomy, this twist that they did in that is wonderful. And so he's just such a prolific, such a very nice guy, everyman director that he just swoops under the radar. But he is top tier. By any means, top tier.
Now let me ask you this: if you could take one person off the list that we have and replace it with him, who would you take off?
Who would I take off?
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, Dario, instantly. Goodbye. Well, you know me. I don't like that kind of horror that Dario brings. Right. So bye, easy for me, But for you guys, maybe it'd be different. It'd be a different person, but. Let's move on from Joe. Let me bring up real quick. We've got some comments. Yeah, Darren.
Oh, go ahead and read the comments, please, and I'll go to my director.
Oh, Scorch was talking about Silver Bullet, the Stephen King werewolf film. Gotcha.
Love that movie.
That's actually a really good film, though.
Top. Yes.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
That American Werewolf in London, which is great too. And you know what? One that a lot of people I think don't really know is Ginger Snaps. Love that movie.
That's true.
That's a great. Yeah.
I've heard that's really, really solid, like a really solid horror film. Maria, what's the werewolf film we just watched? I can't remember it. If you're listening on this podcast, put it in the chat real quick, because I want John to know. Sean says, hot take, I'd swap Lord of the Rings for a Frighteners franchise.
You know what? I would have loved to have seen a sequel, honestly.
I'm not going to go against that, Sean.
Wow.
Let's see. Frisky says, I want to kill everyone. Satan is good. Satan is my pal. Okay.
Wow.
Somebody's having a moment. David says, my favorite...
That whole thing about
exorcism.
Calling a priest to the young priest. I'm going to go do that real quick. I'll be right back.
Right? Yeah.
The exorcism for that guy.
David says, my favorite horror directors currently are Ari Aster and Robert Eggers.
What is it that Ari Aster just did? I know that name. What's one of his popular ones he just did? I can't think of it off the top of my head right now.
I don't know.
Well,
Kevin's the guy.
The chat's here.
Juice says, tell Kevin to keep texting me. Because he loves it. Let's see. Sean says, I kid, man. They are great. Alex says, Robert Eggers is the man. Love his work. The Witch is great.
And guess what? Robert Eggers is doing a remake of Nosferatu.
Thank you, Maria.
Oh.
John, the name of the werewolf movie we watched was called Werewolves Within.
Okay, I know exactly. I haven't seen that one yet, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I thought it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Wasn't that didn't have a little comedy to it? I think,
yes. Oh, it's total comedy with horror elements to it, but it's still a lot of fun.
So, John, I know you asked like if we could swap a name off the list. As I sat here and just gloated about Neil Marshall and Fw Murnow, I just am noticing right now. Eli Roth is on this list, which is disgraceful to me. But I mean, that's just to me. I cannot stand that man's stuff. Anyway, okay, so
you're talking to the guy that put it on the list, Darren. So be careful.
No, here's the thing. I listen. Here's what I thought. All right, so when I was asked about, I threw him on there for a simple reason of, I do enjoy his AMC series that he has going on right now. Some of his movies are hit or miss, I will say. I did like the Hostel series, though. To me, those were just so odd.
The first one.
So if Kevin came and cut off your penis and put it in your mouth, you'd be okay with it?
No.
Oh, okay.
I would not.
What?
No.
What's going on?
What's going on here? Where'd that come from?
Oh, talking a little Hostel here. That is a bit.
But you know what's funny about Hostel 2? When we all worked at the ArcLight at the time, Eli Roth and like the crew and some of the actors, they came in for like a private premiere screening, and I have to say they were very full of themselves. Like the way they were talking, it's like they felt they made like the greatest horror movie ever. I mean, the way they're like laughing at their own jokes, and I was like, wow, man, you guys are really feeling yourself a little too much there.
Okay, John, please continue. I want to give you a chance to finish.
Oh no, I mean, like I don't know, man. Like I feel like, okay, maybe he's not one of the top directors, obviously, but there's some of his stuff that's somewhat enjoyable. But I mean, hearing Kevin say that he's kind of a douchebag, that kind of hurts it a bit. I mean, I'll tell you what. How about we do this? Somebody that didn't make the list that we haven't talked about yet. How about we take off Eli Roth and we replace it with somebody else?
All right.
Agreed.
How about that?
But for now,
I'm in for that.
I'm going to stick to the list though, and I'm going to pick my guy.
Okay.
So my guy that I want to talk about next has had a tremendous impact on horror, at least.
And you will mention it right after this momentary break where we read these chats because they're filling up. Let's see. The Satan thing, Frisky wants to let us know it's from the Burbs. Sure, buddy. David says Hereditary. He loved that film. Sean,
oh my God, it's a hot mess. That movie. Oh my God.
I didn't want to watch it. Sean says Dog Soldiers is a great underrated werewolf movie. Maria, write these down.
Neil Marshall.
And a newer one called Wolf of Snow Hollow is really fun too.
Okay.
David also likes Midsommar, so that sounds. I don't think that sounds good either.
It's along the lines of Hereditary, apparently.
Yeah. Julio agrees with Dog Soldiers. Alex says, my mind is blown. I have to see that Nosferatu remake now. Sean says, Eli Roth is garbage. He also worked at ArcLight, let it be known. Frisky says, Roth was a guest on Joe Bob's show, and he is a horror encyclopedia. Very impressed with his knowledge.
Oh, yeah, that's what I said. I like his show.
That's true.
David says, Nosferatu remake will be fire. He has a cool Viking movie coming out before that. And Alex is nice. I got to check that out, too. Hey, John, do you remember the 13th Warrior?
No.
And it had, like, was it called Eaters of the Dead as well? It had another
John
title.
McTiernan movie, actually.
Yeah, it was a John McTiernan movie, and it was actually Antonio Banderas, I believe, was starred in that. And it was about wasn't he, like, he was a Spaniard that was brought...
He was a Muslim.
Muslim that was brought over to the Viking, the Norse world, and they were having trouble because their community was being eliminated by a group of cannibals, so to speak, like monstrous cannibals that would attack them at night. And he was there to help, like, fight back the demons that they thought they were, and then it turns out it's something kind of different. And he joins them in this fight. It's not so quite a horror film, but there's a lot of horror elements to it. So you might enjoy it. So for those also listening, my mom, she just commented, by the way, she says, love that movie. So my mom loved that movie. So if you know my mom loved it, you know it's got to be pretty solid. So
and also, too, for its time, it was a rather expensive film. And since, John, you talk about practical effects a lot, it's all practical effects.
Yeah.
Very, very expensive looking movie.
Yeah.
For sure.
So, Darren, right. I apologize about that long wait, but go ahead and bring somebody up.
All right, here it is. So this is a person that, in my opinion, has had a massive impact on the horror community, at least people in our age group, despite only directing 3 movies. Now, the reason I love this director is because, man, this dude swings for the fences, and he don't care if he misses, hits a home run, whatever. This guy is always doing something that has a great, fresh take on horror. And I'm talking about Clive Barker. So Clive Barker directed Hellraiser, Nightbreed, and Lords of Illusions. Now, what's, of course, very fitting about it is I actually hate the movie Hellraiser, despite the fact that it tries so hard to be something great, but Pinhead is very memorable. I will say that. Nightbreed, super creative, but with the world building, I just didn't get into it. Lord of Illusions, to me, is like, that is a great horror film. When you watch a Clive Barker movie, you know you're going to see a one-of-a-kind experience. And you're going to see a guy who just is not afraid to take chances and not afraid to try very wild things. And as long as he can keep it contained, it's beautiful. Obviously, he was an executive producer of Candyman and Gods and Monsters and various other things. But, like, I just can't stress enough, especially if you're into, like, mid-90s horror film cinema. Lord of Illusions is just fantastic. I mean, this is a really creative movie. It's got a lot of dark magic in it, a lot of very, like, cult-like elements out in the desert. It's just a really cool film. And like I said, the guy's bold. He does really neat things. I mean, Nightbreed, I didn't get it in a lot of ways, but, like, the creatures in that are phenomenal. Like, the world he builds is really something special. And once again, Hellraiser, when Pinhead's on screen, cool. Otherwise, it's just a boring trip to me. But I think Clive Barker is somebody that, if you're really looking for a fresh look, this is the guy you want to be checking out.
Did you see the cable cut of Nightbreed? It's like a 2-hour plus version of it.
Yeah.
Did you think that gave you a little more understanding of it, other than
totally. Totally, it did. It did. It built up that world a little more. I didn't quite get into it as much as I wanted to, but it is a very cool looking movie for sure.
Right, I agree. And it features one of the other directors that's on our list too.
Who would that be?
Yeah, David Cronenberg.
Let's talk about David Cronenberg.
I love David Cronenberg. His early stuff is excellent.
Yes.
Okay, I'm bringing up David Cronenberg.
All right,
Canadian.
I want to split this up with you, John, because I know you're a big fan too. So I'll let you go first, sir.
Love
you
him
go first, sir.
Oh no, go ahead, man.
Well, actually, let me go with some chat questions and comments.
Oh, yes, sir.
All right.
David says, Alex, did you see Lighthouse? Let's see. Hakeem says 13th Warrior was one of my favorites. Julio says Antonio Banderas. Frank says the book is Eaters of the Dead. 13th Warrior is one of my favorites. Hey, we got some fans. That's great.
That's a Michael Crichton book.
Hakeem says he learned their language just by listening, which I agreed upon. That was an excellent part. Alex says, I love The Lighthouse. I saw it in theaters and own it. One of my favorite movies. Frisky says, Your Mind with Demi-Phase, one of the best sequences I think about it. All the time, very creative. And Sean says, oh yeah, Lord of Illusions is great. Scott Bakula. Yeah. Julio says, Nightbreed is trash. Hakeem says he agrees with Frisky. And Julio says, Cabal cut. So that's where we're at. And we are on Cronenberg. The only horror-esque film of Cronenberg's that I ever watched was The Fly. It was within the last 4 years, and I loved it. Really great film. And I'll let you guys go ahead and take it from there.
For a remake, yes, I agree with you. That, I think, doesn't get talked about enough as far as remakes. Like, people forget almost that was a remake. Which I guess is kind of a testament to him, though, right? I mean, if you think about it, you know? What I was talking about Nightbreed, he played Philip Decker, which was the doctor who ended up wearing that creepy ass mask. And that was him. And then I don't know if you guys know this either, but he actually got killed by Jason in Jason X.
I know that.
Yeah. For me, I'd have to go with Scanners, though. Like, that
I was just about to say that.
Crazy.
Scanners is awesome.
Yeah, man. And I recently found that at like a horror flea market for like $1, and I wasn't passing that up, man. There's no way. Videodrome's another good one. Oh yeah, talk about off the wall and crazy, man.
Wait, did he also do the Stephen King one with
the Dead Zone? The Dead Zone with Martin Sheen.
Yep. Yes, he did.
Sorry, go ahead, John.
Oh no, you guys are good. I want to hear what you guys have to say about it too. But what's some of your favorites of his?
I mean, that's it for me. I've never seen Scanners, so The Fly was the only horror one of his that I've ever seen, and I loved it. But did he do? And forgive me, did he do Naked Lunch?
Yes,
he did.
That movie's trash.
I actually forgot about that one.
That movie's so bad. I walked out of the theater. And this was during a Cronenberg double feature, actually at the Egyptian Theater in Hollywood. I watched The Fly. And then they followed it up with that piece of trash. And, dude, I've never seen so many references to anuses in my life. I don't understand why there were so many...
You haven't seen Society, have you?
Why there were so many buttholes. Have I seen what?
Oh, Society.
No.
Talking about anuses and buttholes. Yeah, that's a whole other...
Is that another Cronenberg film?
It's not, but don't watch it.
Okay.
Please don't.
I won't.
Okay, so like to me with Cronenberg... Like, I feel like Cronenberg, he has as much memorable imagery as a Clive Barker. He's just a better storyteller in a lot of ways. Like, if you even watch something like Existence, which is a wild David Cronenberg movie with some very bizarre things. I think Cronenberg he's so interesting. Everything he does is so interesting. I've had this tradition since, like, the year 2000. Saturday night, if I'm home alone and I want to watch a movie, I have this quote-unquote strange movie Saturday night kind of deal. David Cronenberg is the only director in the Hall of Fame of strange movies Saturday night because everything he does is very interesting. Some of it I hate totally. Like, I'm with Donald. I hate Naked Lunch. It just bothers the hell out of me. But, like, you know, something like Dead Zone, which I think is a lot more accessible to an audience, a lot more mainstream, is still really cool. I love A History of Violence, even though it's not a horror film. There are definitely horror elements there because the imagery is disturbing beyond belief.
Based on a comic book too.
Yeah, So I'm totally with you. Like, you won't get an argument out of me. I think Cronenberg is a master of image, and this is exactly what you want from a horror film director. And I'm with Donald too. Like The Fly, I have memorable images of the movie The Fly. they're disgusting images, but they're memorable, you know? So like, yeah, I have nothing more to say about Cronenberg other than he's like the better version of Clive Barker to me.
Real quick in the comments, we have a few. Scorches, I cannot watch the arm wrestling scene from The Fly. It scared my brain. Frisky says, now anuses are a problem. Come on, Donald. Julio says, Eastern Promises is my favorite Cronenberg film.
It's great.
And Yuzna did Society. All his movies give me the creeps. Not necessarily fan, to be honest.
Fair enough.
So let's move on. We've got a lot more to cover, and we got about a half hour to do it, guys. We are doing a giveaway, by the way, so stay tuned till the end. Everybody, please keep with us. I know it's going to be a little bit long, but we've got a lot of directors to go over, and we want to give them their due time, if we can, a couple minutes each at least. But we are giving away this wonderful trade, courtesy of We Can Be Heroes Comics. Bill and Julio were so kind to donate this to us. This is Grant Morrison, and Mark Millar wrote this wonderful Gothic trade filled with lots of horror goodness, as you can see there. We're giving that away, plus we're giving away a mystery horror movie that will be coming in the mail to you should you win. And we'll be doing that on the Wheel of Fun at the end. And Kevin will also be giving away the shirt off his back if you wish. That Black Panther shirt that he's wearing right now, he will mail it to you, signed by both me and him from the Real Short Box. We will sign it just because I want him to get rid of it. So
I'm glad you didn't say me, because
that's disturbing.
I'm just glad you didn't say me, because I'm not giving up my Halloween shirt, man.
I didn't figure you would.
I can't do it, man.
I didn't figure you would, but I know Kevin, he would give you the shirt off his back for any reason, and this is a good enough reason. So we will be giving away Kevin's shirt at the end of the night as well.
Well, if that's the case, then I'm buying your shirt, John. I'm sorry. I have to buy it off of you.
I thought we had more directors to discuss.
All right, moving on. You're right. Let me bring up one really quickly because I feel he merits being mentioned. Let me just mention a few of his films real quick to kind of whet your appetite. So, we're talking Machete Kills, From Dusk Till Dawn. We are talking about Planet Terror. We're talking about The Factory and a whole host of others. Honestly, I didn't feel like we could properly mention horror without mentioning Robert Rodriguez. And I know a lot of people will disagree with me on this, but I will disagree with them. I think Robert Rodriguez is an amazing horror director when he puts his mind to things. I thought Planet Terror was an excellent example of that. Dusk to Dawn as well. Wonderful, wonderful director with a lot of talent. And if you ever get a chance to read his Rebel with a Camera, I believe is what it is, his kind of biography or autobiography.
I think if it was Rebel Without a Crew, I have that book.
Maybe that's it, Rebel Without a Crew. Yeah. It's a wonderful read that you can learn a lot about indie filmmaking and kind of guerrilla-style filmmaking in general. So check that out if you can. But this is Robert Rodriguez. Anybody have any comments on any of his wonderful horror-esque films?
I got one for you that I don't know if you guys knew about, but he was involved with Lucha Underground, which was a wrestling promotion that was on El Rey.
Right.
What's cool about that was he put elements of horror into wrestling. So there was a night where they actually ripped out a guy's heart, and it looked cool as hell. And they completely killed it. Yeah, they completely killed the character off. So watching that, and like guys had like glowing eyes, or like the one guy, like they killed the one guy that was like the promoter of the show, and then he came back to life. And it was like, dude, like they did some off the wall, really cool stuff though. And I think it lasted for about 3 seasons, and unfortunately got canceled. But it was awesome though. They had some great wrestling.
Now, does that network still exist, or was that kind of done too?
I don't. You know what? I don't know.
Yeah.
Because El Rey used to play some great horror movies too, man.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, you could tell Robert's penchant for horror just in that alone. Yeah.
Robert Rodriguez. I think it's interesting because so much time has passed since kind of his peak. But like Robert Rodriguez, I mean, people forget that guy took Hollywood by storm for about 12 to I'd say 12, 13 years. I mean, people were blown away by what he was able to do. And I just want to bring up one movie you mentioned, Donald, The Faculty, because I think The Faculty is highly underrated in the sense that...
Very popular in the chat right now.
Yeah, The Faculty is a film that I think really has great kind of horror elements to it, but it's also really effective, because like almost all horror films are like coming of age teen movies, but they miss the coming of age teen part and they favor the horror over it. And like Faculty, I think, really balanced it out perfectly, because, you know, Josh Hartnett and all that, like I could feel I was growing with the teens in that film, while simultaneously at the same time I was getting a relatively good, I'd say more sci-fi horror film than anything else. But yeah,
similar to Invasion of the Body Snatchers in a way.
Yeah, very Puppet Masters-y. You know, it's great. Like I definitely think that one gets overlooked and it's a little unfair.
Yeah. Agreed. In the chats, Janet says The Fly is such an intense movie. Alex says, are you giving away a black licorice shirt? It's possible, Alex. He did like the shirt. Alex is actually a fan of the Blue Beetle web series. I don't know if you guys know this, but I created a web series called The Blue Beetle Ted Cord Returns. It's on Rumble Spoon Productions page on YouTube.
We know.
You could check it out. I'm just saying. Frisky says, finally got around to watching The Faculty, and was pretty surprised and happy with it. Alex also says The Faculty is a solid movie, really good. Julio says Planet Terror rules. I love all of it. Christopher Armaz says Rodriguez definitely should be on the list. Maybe not the best, but worthy to be considered. Thank you, Christopher. Thank you so much, and thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in. Frank says The Faculty is dated, but a great watch. And Sean says From Dusk Till Dawn is really good. The Faculty is fun, and Planet Terror is a movie. And Alex then says, great comments from Darren about The Faculty. So Alex likes your comments on that, Darren.
Thank you.
And Hakeem says, I thoroughly enjoy the Blue Beetle series. So there we go.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. There's horror elements in that too, actually, with Eclipso. Yeah. Oh, that happened. Okay, moving on. Let's mention a few more really quickly, or as quickly as we can, gentlemen. Anybody want to grab one?
Yes. How about, one of the great masters who passed away a few years ago as well, Wes Craven.
Love
yes.
I mean, my goodness.
That's a big one.
Are we going to talk about music of the heart?
I mean, that's good. That's good. That's good. Didn't that have the great...
Wait, he did Swamp Thing?
Yes. Yes, he did.
Oh, wow.
1982.
I had no idea.
Yeah, Last House on the Left, of course, was his first directorial debut. And then The Hills Have Eyes, a little bit later in the 70s, another classic cult horror movie. Swamp Thing, you already mentioned. And then, of course, in 1984, one of the greatest horror movie icons, characters of all time, debuted. A Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger. Yes, and also, I mentioned Serpent in the Rainbow earlier. That's a underrated classic horror movie from the 80s, and that's involving, the original zombies.
Okay.
So, for a guy that I feel like is most known for Nightmare on Elm Street, and of course Scream, right?
Yes.
But I have three that I feel are super underrated, and I absolutely love these movies from him. The People Under the Stairs. I love The People Under the Stairs.
Oh yeah.
Great movie. Great movie. Shocker is a lot like Freddy, if you think about it. There's elements of Nightmare on Elm Street in that movie. And Deadly Friend. Have you guys ever seen Deadly Friend?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I love that movie, and one of the coolest death scenes in a movie ever, with the basketball to the face. You got to check it out. Super underrated.
Look, Wes Craven, he's not my personal number one for horror, but I think you can make the case he is probably, I'm going to say he could quite possibly be the best horror director of all time. And I'm going to tell you why my case would be on this. This guy has literally made mega hits in 3 different decades. That's unheard of for a horror film director. You have to understand this. Like between Hills Have Eyes and Last House on the Left, which granted they weren't popular right away. It took time for people to really discover them, but they were really imaginative at the time and really inspired a lot of horror films. Then you throw on top of that, you've got Nightmare on Elm Street throughout, which was ruling the 80s. And then the dude reinvents himself again with Scream, which is not only a hit, it's a mega hit. They sold, you see that mask behind me of Ghostface Killer? That mask sold $1 billion worth of Halloween outfits in 1996. Like, this guy is unbelievable. He's a legend in so many ways, and it's too bad I can't dedicate more time to him. But
Darren, don't forget about Vampire in Brooklyn.
Oh yes.
Oh, and Old Dirty Bastard too.
Every day I forget about it, Kevin.
I'm a fan. I can't lie. I like Vampire Burger.
John, don't reveal yourself like this, please.
I'm sorry, man. I can't help it. I can't help it.
Don says, great underrated Wes movies. People Under the Stairs, Red Eye, and New Nightmare. I actually really did like Red Eye as well. I thought that was...
Love New Nightmare. Oh, New Nightmare is hilarious.
Christopher says, agreed with Darren's points on Wes. My mom says, you should watch The Movies That Made Us. Apparently they talk about some of this stuff in their most recent...
They have a new season out. They cover Halloween, Friday the 13th, and I think Nightmare on Elm Street on that one too.
Oh, wow, nice. So they did a lot of horror then. It was a good time for it to come out.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Wes Craven also created New Line Cinema, correct?
No, he didn't create New Line Cinema.
It's the house that Freddie built.
Freddie built.
Yeah.
Robert Shea.
Yeah. Okay. Frisky says, great list, John. Haven't seen the third one you mentioned, but it's on the radar now.
Yeah, make sure to check it out. It's a good time.
David says, Donald, how do you feel about Fede Alvarez asking because of your unwavering love for Evil Dead? And my mom says it's great. And Scorch says, I like Wes Craven's Deadly Friend.
There we go.
Deadly Friend. There we go. I'm indifferent, David, to be honest. Doesn't wow me, but doesn't like make me angry or anything. I'm just really indifferent. I'm sorry. All right. So let's move on from Wes. We've covered him.
I got one I'd like to do if that's
all right. Sure. Yeah, go for it.
I'm gonna go with I'm gonna make the case. This might be the most popular or quite possibly the best modern horror film director on our list, and I'm talking about James Wan. I would say if you just look at the list here alone, I mean, how many horror directors in today's day and age have Saw, Insidious, The Conjuring, and Malignant on their resume? Like, I mean,
that movie was batshit crazy.
Yeah,
but I was there for it though. Good time.
But and to be fair, James Wan, he does more than just horror. Like, I mean, he directed Aquaman and Furious 7. So this isn't some hack. Like, this dude knows a lot of stuff. But man, James Wan, especially Saw, if you are a screenwriter or aspire to be a screenwriter, the absolute perfect opening scene in a horror movie, there are two. The opening scene in Scream and the opening scene in Saw. And I'm telling you, this guy is unbelievable. And regardless of how you feel about maybe Insidious or Conjuring, we're talking hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars later on those ones. So, like, clearly, like, you got to give him some love for his mainstream because he starts with Saw, which is a very low-budget $350,000 film. Now, if you're looking at a big-budget horror film, James Wan is basically your guy.
I don't disagree with anything you just said. I mean, just watching Malignant, I heard everybody talk about it, and then I heard people say like they kind of related it to Basket Case, if you guys remember that one.
Vaguely.
And I saw the relation to that, and I was like, okay, I get it. I can see why you could say, all right, that has a little element of that. The movie was crazy though, and one that we didn't mention was Dead Silence. I thought that was a really good movie.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I thought that was really well done, man.
Yeah, and Death Sentence. Death Sentence as well. Yeah,
yes, that came later. This came out the same year, actually. Those two movies.
Okay.
Yeah. Dead Silence and Death Sentence. Death Sentence is really good. I mean, especially if you're, there's horror elements to it, but it's more like Taken, except, with Kevin Bacon.
Okay, I got you.
My mom says there was an old movie called Blood Feast. Not sure who directed it.
Oh my good. Isn't that Herschel Gordon Lewis?
You got it, buddy. Herschel Gordon Lewis.
Yeah.
Didn't he also composed it, right? Didn't you the composition? Yeah, I think he did the score for it, so he composed it as well, which is rare.
Right. He's another one you could bring up for this, and also even Stuart Gordon for Reanimator. Which
I was just watching that over a week ago.
Okay,
rewatching that movie.
So I always I always forget the lead actor's name in Reanimator.
Jeffrey Combs.
Thank you, Jeffrey Combs.
Combs, yes.
Jeffrey Combs. I was introduced to him in The Frighteners, and I was like, my God, this man would have made an amazing Grim of Wormtongue in Lord of the Rings. So they did a screening of a film. I can't remember which film it was. I think it was Reanimator. And Jeffrey Combs came out for the Q&A. It was at the Egyptian in Hollywood. So I walked up to him and I said, hey, I loved you in The Frighteners. And I said, but I got to ask, you were in The Frighteners with Peter Jackson. I said, why weren't you in, like I said, I just thought you would have made a perfect. Granted, Grimmer Warrington was fantastic. The actor that played him was fantastic. That's what's his name from Deadwood. Just, again, horrible names. But I said, why? I just thought that would have been a perfect role for you. And he pulled me a little closer and he said, did you ever notice that Peter Jackson doesn't like to recast people?
Oh, wow.
And I said, no, I mean, not really. And he said, yeah. He said, if you're in one film, he doesn't like to have you back for another unless it's like a trilogy type thing. You know, so everybody that was in the trilogies of like The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings and stuff, very lucky with Peter Jackson because they got to work with him multiple times. But a lot of other people, one and done's with him, which is an interesting thing.
Including Kate Winslet, who was in Heavenly Creatures.
Who?
Kate Winslet.
I don't know if you know this, but that was a great segue for another director on the list, honestly.
Bring it up.
Well, if you go from someone who didn't like to recast the same people, you move on to someone who recasts the same people all the time. And if that doesn't give it away, you got to go with Rob Zombie. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Sherry Moon is the star of every one of his movies. Am I wrong? I mean, she is. I'm not really knocking it. For me, if I look at his movies, I like House of a Thousand Corpses. I like Devil's Rejects more than House of a Thousand Corpses. And I thought 3 from Hell was a decent ending, I guess, to that whole trilogy. 31 was okay. Lords of Salem was how do I say this in a nice way? It was you know how you say it, some things are a mind, you know, and I don't want to say the other word that comes after.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that movie was just, I sat there for a half an hour afterwards and looked at the TV like, what the hell did I just watch? Because I didn't understand it. I'm not going to lie, I didn't understand it at all. And then, okay, elephant in the room here, his Halloween movies. It took me 3 tries to watch his remake of Halloween and actually like it. Very white trash and vulgar type of backstory, but after a while, I kind of enjoyed the backstory part. I felt like when he got to the remake, it was very rushed. Like, I mean, it was like snap your fingers, and boom, we're done. And Halloween 2, I thought was awful. Like, who was in the chat saying everything was garbage? Because if he says Halloween 2 is garbage, I'm right there with you, bro. I can't stand his version of Halloween 2. The white horse stuff and the fact that he spoke. I was like, you just ruined every bit of what we knew. I understand it's his take on it, but Michael's that silent killer. He doesn't have to speak. I think he's going to when Halloween ends, because I think they're leading to something like that. Maybe I'll be ready for it then, maybe not. But I don't know, Rob, just he's hit or miss for me.
I'll tell you.
I'm a little leery.
When he
I'm a
redid
little leery on the monsters that he's coming up with.
Loomis,
I don't even know.
When he redid and did cast Loomis with
Malcolm McDowell.
Thank you, Malcolm McDowell.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I thought that was excellent casting. And I loved the Halloween film until about 20 minutes till it ended. When it ended, and they were like, "No, we're going to just keep this going," and he's still there. This movie had 3 endings. Rob just doesn't know how to end a film. I think is his number one biggest problem is he doesn't know how to end a film. If he knew how to end a film, it would be a lot better for him. But he doesn't, and that weighs on the audience. Unfortunately, it just drags it on. But Rob, deserving of being on the list. Yeah, I mean he did what, House of a Thousand Corpses and things like that. Who played the clown dude?
Sid Haig. Yeah,
Sid Haig.
Sid Haig. I thought that character was great.
Yeah, great, but it was only great because of Sig. Fantastic actor. I just recently have been rewatching the A-Team, and he's in an episode in season 1, which I found to be great. Yeah, he's a biker dude that's trapped in jail with Hannibal, and it's so much fun. Yeah, he does a great job. But overall, yeah, Rob hit or miss with this kind of stuff for me. I could let it go, or I could leave him on the list. I put him on the list because I was recommended to put it on the list, but otherwise I probably would have left him off. But there is something to mention about him trying to do these kinds of things and about his abilities. And I enjoyed parts of Halloween, his remakes and stuff. Not the second one so much, but the first one.
Well, Don, I feel like before our show ends, we definitely have to talk about your guy Sam the Sham.
Oh yeah. Really quick in the chats, Alex says, "Has anyone mentioned Frankenhooker?" That's a fun one.
Oh my God, yes.
Frisky says, "Alex, you looking for a date?" And then Frisky says, "I tolerate RZ as a director and absolutely loathe him as a writer. Does everybody have to talk like a methed up hick?" Maria says, "I'm excited to see what Rob Zombie does with the Monsters movie. The photos from the set look great," she thinks.
Okay, here's my thing. Have you seen the picture that compares the actors? Like, okay, Fred Gwynn has that look on his face like, who's this dude? Like, you're not me. I mean, come on, you know? I get it. It's a different take on it, but, dude, Fred Gwynn was just Fred Gwynn, let's be honest. He is Herman Munster. He was...
Oh, yeah.
His character, Judd Crandall in Pet Sematary, he made that, you know?
The two Utes?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Come on, My Cousin Vinny, you gotta love that.
Yeah. Really quickly, Scorch says, "I think that Michael Myers could survive an atom bomb." Frisky says, "RZ saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2 100 times, and it shows." Alex says, "Did anyone see Rob Zombie on Space Ghost Coast to Coast? Hilarious." No, I did not see that. Anybody else? No?
I haven't.
Dude,
Hakeem says, "I've never watched a Rob Zombie film. Love the music, though." David says, "Fede Alvarez is doing the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre direct sequel to the original."
Oh, okay.
And we are caught up, and we are talking my boy, the number one. Thanks to Darren, I got to work with this guy, and I'll never forget that moment. We are talking Sam Raimi.
Wow. That's awesome, man. You got to work with him?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
That's cool.
Got to work with him. It was wonderful. Such a nice guy. Such a quiet, reserved man for being a director. It's amazing how he gets shit done. You know what I mean? Like, wearing a suit the whole time and being so polite.
Wow.
Stood in line behind everybody when it came to like getting food and stuff, and just really humble, really cool dude. Okay, so Evil Dead brought a different take on a zombie film that we had never seen before. Basically creating Deadites, which is a complete subgenre of zombies, if you ask me. We get Ashley Williams, a.k.a. Ash Williams, a.k.a. Ash, which is Bruce Campbell, made his career. If it wasn't for this film, Bruce would be nothing. But Bruce also did make this film, too. We see more of Ash's personality in The Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn, and we see even more of that amazing personality in Army of Darkness. Personally, Army of Darkness is my favorite of the trilogy. Then we get Ash vs. the Evil Dead, which is a 3-season horror series on Starz. To last 3 seasons is pretty significant and pretty impressive. The fact that we didn't get a 4th in the future was a little depressing, but it is what it is.
That was a good series, though. It really was.
Absolutely. It was a wonderful series. He's directed so many greats. Produced things like Don't Breathe, 30 Days of Night, The Possession, The Messengers, Drag Me to Hell, The Grudge 2, The Grudge 3, the remake of The Evil Dead. He is a horror icon if there ever was one. He's a friend of the Coen brothers. They went to school together. They were in the same town together. They worked on projects. Ted Raimi's his brother. He brought him along for all of the New Zealand filming, for all of the Xena Warrior Princess stuff and the Hercules Legendary Durranies type things, which was under a production banner that he worked with. Just a phenomenal director, genius mind, to be able to use your stylistic manners from Evil Dead and put that into Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2, particularly Doc Ock's tentacles, and to make that point of view work, and to make... He made a superhero film, a horror film, in an instant, just like that, in the couple seconds that took place, and it was the scariest goddamn thing ever in a superhero film. Love him. Anybody else have anything they want to say?
Well, I think I told you years ago when I was in college, I saw the first Evil Dead movie. And when I saw it, I said to myself, you know what? this guy would be a good director for a Spider-Man movie, because I saw the different camera angles he was using and just the techniques. And then when he got hired, I was like, wow, what a great choice. And of course, there were no regrets. He did a great job.
I remember the first time Don met Sam Raimi, actually on the film we were working on. I was just standing, I was running the base camp, and he walks over to me and he says, "Hey, Darren, Sam just showed up." Now, of course, I assumed he knows what Sam looks like, as he's kind of, one of his favorites. I was like, "You going to show him to his trailer or what?" And he's like, "Yeah." It was just a great moment. I was really glad you got that opportunity.
And I'm like,
a great memory for me too.
I'm like, "Sam, so what's up? What's going on? How you been?" He's like, "Oh, I'm good. Cool.
And his assistant was awesome too, man.
Yeah, great guy. When I told him I was like, I couldn't get a shirt at Comic-Con because I couldn't get in line for it and stuff. He's like, "Oh, what's your address?" He's like, "I can send you one of those shirts." I was like, "Really?" It was so nice of him. They were just super cool guys. Really, whole thing, head to toe, great people. And that is Sam Raimi. And I know we're rushing a little bit, but we want to get to a couple big guns here. Let's do really quickly. I'm going to just mention these. I'm going to bring them up because we only have a few left, and I want to get.
We have two big ones left.
Yeah. We have one that's going to bring up right now, Guillermo del Toro.
Love him.
There you go.
Love him.
Kevin, I know you pushed for Guillermo to be on this, so why don't you mention a few things about Guillermo, and then we'll move on.
Well, the great Mexican filmmaker. His early works was Cronos, Mimic, which I really liked. That came out like in 1997. The Devil's Backbone, and of course when he took on the sequel to Blade 2, very well done. Hellboy, I mean, it's not really a horror movie per se, but it looks like kind of like a horror movie-esque. Pan's Labyrinth, can't go wrong there. Crimson Peak, which came out a few years ago. He's a great classic filmmaker, very worthy, very creative mind, very interesting creatures that you see in his films. What about you, John? How you feel about Guillermo del Toro?
I enjoy a lot of his work too, and he also did The Orphanage too, right? Was that his?
I think he produced it.
Produced it, yeah.
Did he? Okay. I actually really enjoyed that one too. A question for you about Pan's Labyrinth. Would you consider that more of a fantasy horror type movie?
I would, in a way. I would put it in a subgenre of fantasy horror for sure.
Okay. Yeah, something like Legend. That's kind of like a fantasy.
You got it.
Too.
Which is why Maria was really pushing for this. She wanted Alien because Ridley Scott, and Legend because of Ridley Scott. But I was like, well, that's sci-fi and fantasy first,
right,
with horror elements, and I was like that. Right. So that kind of teeters on that same line, yeah.
Hell, the Neverending Story has some horror elements to it.
Oh, absolutely. Dark Crystal, yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah. I think what's really nice to mention with Del Toro is how he can take a movie I really enjoyed the first Blade film, but let's be real here. I mean, I don't think everyone across America was crazy about Blade, and to really elevate Blade 2 to a whole different level. I mean, that movie, Blade 2 and Blade 1 have nothing in common. They're completely different. And just what I like about Del Toro the most, he's a great storyteller, which I think gets overlooked with a lot of horror guys. He's a great storyteller, on top of the fact that Del Toro has a lot of skill at building suspense, almost to a Hitchcockian kind of level. He's fantastic at building suspense and prepping you for big scares.
Yep. We're going to move on quickly from Guillermo. Alex in the chat says Darkman is fire. Sean says Raimi is awesome. Hakeem says Raimi's horror influence with Dr. Octopus and Spider-Man 2 was awesome. David says, yes, Spider-Man 3 was scary bad. Yes, of course. Sean says, not horror, but a simple plan is genius. Alex says, Bully Maguire redeems Spider-Man 3. David says, Pan's Labyrinth equals Arclight Classic. Yes, that was a, if I recall, a, what am I thinking? It was during, the movie festival we always had.
AFI?
AFI, thank you. In November and stuff. Hakeem says, Alex says Legend with exclamation points. Yes. David says Pan's was an Oscar-level horror movie, which is rare. And Maria says, love scary stories to tell in the dark.
That was actually really well done, too.
Yes.
I can't lie.
Very, very well done. In fact, I dare anybody to try to do this combination. Watch Hocus Pocus and follow it up with Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I think it's a perfect twofer. Try it out. Try it out. Seriously, you won't regret it. Moving on, I'm going to mention these very quickly because we are running out of time. We have to get to the Wheel of Fun so people can get their prizes. Terence Fisher. Now, Terence Fisher, the reason why I brought him up is Terence Fisher is a British gentleman. He has directed things such as The Curse of Frankenstein, Horror of Dracula, Dracula, Prince of Darkness, Brides of Dracula, The Revenge of Frankenstein, Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed, and so on and so on. The Mummy, The Frankenstein Created, Frankenstein, The Hound of Baskerville, The Curse of the Werewolf, The Devil's Hideout, The Gorgon, you name it, he's directed it. Terence is a very, very active director in Hammer films, horror films in the 50s and the 60s, and I think even up to the 70s, which is very rare for somebody to be active for so long and just continue to put out hits. I don't know what else to say about him, but just that to be able to do that and to be able, he basically brought to the forefront or re-brought out Gothic horror. He brought out lustful vengeance within these creatures, particularly Dracula, due to Christopher Lee's lust for the film and for anybody else in a film. So
they pretty much consider those Hammer horror, right? That's what they pretty much call those, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So that is Terence Fisher. One more that I'm going to mention really quickly. Let me find the picture here. This guy, everybody knows him. If you don't, shame on you. We are talking about Alfred Hitchcock. Now, some people might think, why is he in here? Because of suspenseful horror. The elements of suspense and horror go hand in hand. And Hitchcock was pretty much the master of that. If you look at some of his films, like Foreign Correspondent, North by Northwest, Rear Window, Suspicion, and Rope, you're looking at these types of suspenses that are building and building and building. Then we get things like Dressed to Kill, The Birds, and Psycho, and we look at how somebody can create these suspenseful moments and put it into a pure horrifying experience. Not much else to say about Alfred Hitchcock, except for he was the master of suspense. Anybody else?
Absolutely. I just want to say that, honestly, the Psycho shower scene has to be one of the most iconic scenes in a horror movie.
And there's a reason for that.
Mm-hmm.
And that movie, and that movie Psycho in general kind of set up the modern day horror film for all intents and purposes.
Did you know that he had to really fight with the what is it? The American Picture Association.
The Hays Office. It was the Hays Office.
Yeah, the American
the Hays Code.
Yeah, because of the toilet flushing of anything in that movie in Psycho. Showing a toilet flush was forbidden. He had to fight for that shot because they wanted it out.
Well, and also too, he had suggested a nude woman in the shower without showing any nudity.
Yeah,
that was that was basically his skill sets were just masterful at those things.
Yeah.
I couldn't even imagine the cuts it took to get that shot. Or shots, sorry, but I mean, my God, man.
They used to show it at an attraction at Universal Studios, how he got all those shots. Actually, it was pretty fast.
Oh, wow.
All right.
7 camera angles.
We've talked about Hitchcock. We've talked about Raimi. We've talked about Craven. We've talked about everyone and anyone we can think of. We've mentioned people that shouldn't be in here. We've mentioned people that deserve to be in here, and we're not. And we're down to the last, but certainly not least. And John, I kept this here for you, my friend, for everybody. We are talking about the master of horror, the master of just creating a goddamn good movie. We're talking about John Carpenter.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. My all-time favorite movie, not just horror, but Halloween. I love Halloween. Man, I mean, what can I say about it that hasn't already been said? I mean, just the shots were phenomenal. I think the story Listen, it's got its faults. I can point out certain faults in the movie, but to me, it's just, I love it. That will always be my favorite movie. That stays at the top of my list. Absolutely. It will never change. But he's got a resume of They Live, Fog, Prince of Darkness, The Thing, Christine, and a movie that I think is semi-underrated from him is Body Bags. It was a horror anthology. Have you guys ever seen that one?
No.
No, actually, I have not.
It's actually a lot of fun. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, man. And it's one that I think a lot of people don't talk about. But like, okay, we've been talking about movies that have that horror element, Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah. I
think that's a great movie. I mean, come on.
A favorite on this podcast for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, he's got such a big and good resume. And the fact that here we are 43 years later, and he's still involved with the Halloween franchise. And I think it was, Dawn, you mentioned about, who was it that you said scored his own film earlier?
Oh, what's his, Jesus Christ. What is his name? Was it William? Keep going, I'll remember.
Rodriguez.
No.
It's definitely scores.
Oh, Robert Rodriguez. Yeah, that makes sense.
No, it wasn't Robert Rodriguez.
Yeah,
somebody else.
But then you have John Carpenter that does the same thing. And I mean, like, obviously, you see a John Carpenter movie, you can spot his music from a mile away. The synthesizer and the keyboards and all that, man. Like, but it's phenomenal, though. Like,
no, John, and if I could just politely interrupt, my coworkers where I work was one of the vampire slayers in John Carpenter's Vampires. Yet another film he scored that is actually an awesome little movie too.
It's great.
And if I could point out too, Ghosts of Mars, which is basically John Carpenter taking the day off, is still better than most horror film directors.
I mean, you're right. Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of that one, but no, you're right. Absolutely, I agree.
Alex says The Thing is one of the best movies ever. I agree. It's fantastic. It's a phenomenal remake of a story that kind of doesn't quite remake it, but shows a love for it in a way that's fantastic. My God,
what's cool about that?
I've never been more scared of diabetes in my life.
Wilford Brimley.
Yep.
What's cool about that too, though, is if you watch Halloween '78, they're actually watching The Thing from Another World or whatever, and he went on later to make that movie, which was kind of cool. Nice little.
That is cool.
I don't know. Nice little history lesson, I guess. I don't know how you want to call it, but yeah.
Christopher says Rosemary's Baby with an exclamation point. Frisky says Carpenter as Crypt Keeper in Body Bags. Yes. And my mom says Blood Feast guy. Yes, Mom. Yes, thank you. It's the director of Blood Feast. I'm so sorry.
Herschel Gordon Lewis.
Yes, thank you. I don't know why I thought it was a W, but yeah, Herschel. He scored his own. Yeah, that was him.
That's it.
Thanks, Mom. Wow. God.
And
Mom's got such a good memory.
Too, folks, like, and it's unfortunate we can't give him as much time as we normally would, but keep in mind, we have podcasts that heavily feature John Carpenter, especially I think we had a top 10 John Carpenter films.
We did. Thank you, Dan.
Podcast was very popular. So
like a year ago. Yeah,
John Carpenter is very popular on this list. Real quick, as I've tried to convince people, and I managed to convince one of our fellow podcasters, Jared, who had to rewatch it. Christine is awesome. Like, back at it now, it's actually still rather good. Obviously, like, there's some datedness to it being that it was made in 1983. Culturally, socially, all those things. But that movie still holds up. It is way better than when I first remembered watching it. But Carpenter, I can make the case he may have made Stephen King's one of the better Stephen King movies, if not one of the best. I mean, depending on how you might feel about The Shining or Misery or anything like that. So, yeah, definitely up there. He should be mentioned for making a great Stephen King adaptation.
I agree.
Yeah. So that's kind of our list, guys. Any last things you want to mention before we go to the Wheel of Fun for trying to get our winners for tonight?
This was fun. This was a great night. Thank you, John, for being a guest. We got to bring you back again. Your knowledge of horror movies is quite impressive and exquisite.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys having me back, man.
Yeah, and John's like, he's legit, man. If you ever follow him on social media and stuff, like, and obviously I know one of his best friends pretty well too. Like, he's a real horror fan. Like, I mean, for people that are out there wondering who in the world rents these like horror movies at the Red Box, that's the guy. That's
nice.
The guy right there. I'm telling you. And that's why they're making them.
We talked about that one time. We talked about how, like, and I'm sure you guys can relate to this. when you would go to the video store back in the day and you would just see that cover of a movie and it drew you in. No matter how bad the movie ended up being, it was the cover.
Yeah.
You had to see it. And then somebody mentioned in the chat, Frankenhooker, that had a box that actually talked. And it said, want a date, got any money? And then there was the box for the movie Dead Pit where the eyes lit up. Like, I miss that. Man, those days were great. Like, dude, going into the...
That movie for me is Silent Night, Deadly Night. What a great movie.
Yeah.
What a great cover.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
The grandpa in that movie is creepy as hell.
Yeah.
So, guys, let's get to it. Everybody's asking. Alex, by the way, says awesome trivia from John about The Thing. So, John, thank you. And by the way, I know we're getting a little late in the podcast, but I just want to mention the elephant in the room. John and I flew to Ohio to visit my family, and while I was there, I came and I went to visit John, and I went to one of his matches in wrestling. No, I didn't challenge him, but I went to one of his wrestling matches. We hashed it out. We had a few drinks. We had a good time. We talked about it, and we're cool, which is why we had him on, because we both have a love for film. We both have a love for, action, adventure, horror, things like that. So I wanted to play good, and John, thank you for being on. I very much appreciate that.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me. And he may not want to admit to it, but he was actually cheering for me at that show, too. Just want to throw that out there.
No, I don't want to admit that.
Were you wrestling your role model, Rick Lieb?
I will never wrestle my role model, Rick Lieb. No. No.
Okay.
Not a fan. He doesn't like me very much.
Oh, I didn't know all that, to be perfectly honest with you. I just remember him. He was a distinct memory when I went to your...
I can sum it up for you in like 2 seconds. We did a show for him, and we were required to go to a strip club, which he was part of, and we chose to go elsewhere because when I go to a show, I just want to go out, eat with my friends, and go home. And he called me unprofessional for not going, and I was like, yeah, I had some words for him. I can't say them right now.
This is a whole separate podcast.
Well then, John.
We'll do a shoot interview. How about that?
Yeah. We'll do a shoot on
Let's
Black
get this
Hawk
done.
too,
Oh, wait, never mind.
All these other people that I just remember. Anyway.
Okay, so Maria says, speaking of Stephen King, shout out to Mary Lambert, who directed the Pet Sematary movies.
Yes.
And
terrible remake, though.
That's it. So let's do the Wheel of Slab. Yes. Everybody that's still here, I see that there's quite a few of you still. So everybody that's still here, please just type in the chat here. So we know that you are here, and we can enter you into the Wheel of Slab, okay?
And thank you for staying with us, too. We really appreciate it, folks.
Yeah, absolutely.
So much horror. This time next week, October will be over, everyone.
Yeah.
November.
And by the way,
we got a good one next week.
Yeah. By the way, we are coming up upon thank you guys for posting here. We are coming up upon this Thursday. We're going to be posting our 200th podcast, guys.
Very good.
And for the 200th, we wanted to get sentimental. We wanted to reach back all the way to our first podcast when it was Kevin, myself, and Jared. And we would talk about comic books and things and just reminisce about things that we knew. And we decided that, we would do that for our 200th. That's coming out this Thursday. We also have a very special live podcast, which I'm hoping you can all be a part of. It is next Monday, and it is our Battle of the Bonds. And Darren, I know that you've got to be excited about this. Battle of the Bonds, where every single James Bond film, except for the new one, because some people haven't seen it, will be fighting to be crowned number one. And the best part is you people in the chat, you are voting for number one for the James Bond films.
I can't wait for The World Is Not Enough to be number one.
Yes. That'll be exciting.
All right, I have to ask the question because I out of you three, who's your favorite Bond? Who would be your favorite?
It's tough. I personally like Roger Moore.
Okay, all right.
For me, it's like top three. It's Sean, Timothy Dalton, and Daniel Craig.
For me, it's Pierce Brosnan.
Wow. So different all across the board.
Yeah.
That's cool, man.
With a close Roger Moore is a close second, to be honest. Yeah.
Wow.
And that's only because I've rewatched every single James Bond film within the last year. Every single one.
Have.
With Kevin.
Yes, you have.
Yep. Every single one. With Kevin, Maria, and Janet. We watched every single James Bond.
And a Mish to a lesser extent.
Even
So
the
much.
world is not enough.
It was enough, Darren. Trust me. All right, so here we go, Kevin. Names to put in. Alex Benquita. He is here. By the way, Hakeem says, I was once coerced to go to a strip club during the shoot of a Sea-Doo commercial in Melbourne, Florida. Interesting. My mom is here. My dad is here. Ricky Barnett is here. Scorch, a.k.a. Frank, is here. Maria is here. Christopher Armaz is here.
Hey.
Janet Rodriguez is here. Austin Fox is here. Frank Huff is here. Sherlock Holmes is here. Frisky Gringo is here. That is Caleb, by the way. Hakeem says, Kevin and I had to use the bathroom in a strip club when we shot a music video for a band called Endo some years back. Oh, interesting, Kevin.
I remember that.
Never use a bathroom in a strip club. Never.
Sean is also here. And he says Lazenby for life. And Stephanie is here as well, Kevin.
Lazenby for life.
So
Who's the person before Stephanie?
The person before Stephanie?
Mm-hmm.
Sean.
Okay. Leonard. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Dude, he said Lazenby for life. Come on, bruh.
And let me make sure I got everybody here. I'm sorry, just double checking. Okay. Kevin, you got everybody in there?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and this is for the... what do we want to give away first? The movie or the graphic novel?
Yeah, we go for the graphic novel.
Let's go for the graphic novel. Winner of the Swamp Thing graphic novel. All this, look at that. That's so cool. Just a page I pulled up. Look how cool it is.
That's pretty sweet.
Good graphic goodness right here. Grant Morrison, Mark Millar, Phil Hester, Kim Medler, Tajima Wood. The Root of All Evil. Swamp Thing. Courtesy of We Can Be Heroes Comic Books in Chatsworth, California, a.k.a. Julio and Will's shop. Kevin, spin that wheel.
All right, let us begin.
Hey, you know, it's so strange. Go ahead.
The winner is Alex.
Alex Benquita?
Yes.
Alex? Okay, Alex, you won.
All right.
Swamp Thing.
You get a Lionheart clap.
You won the volume of Swamp Thing. Thank you for joining us, Alex. Wow, you're on here and you win. That is how it's done, buddy. So you are winning this. Okay, Kevin, now we are doing, take Alex's name out, we are now doing the surprise horror movie.
All right.
Uh-oh, Kevin, you have to add Enrique. He has joined us.
Hey,
wonderful.
what's going on, man?
I'm going to allow Enrique because he's been with us for forever. He's like
He's been with us from the very beginning.
Yes.
Yeah. Just a very random fact as you're spinning there, Kevin. I just realized I know 2 people who have won the friggin' Showcase Showdown on The Price is Right.
Really?
Wow.
2!
I know one.
And we know that one together.
Yeah.
I know none.
Dude, the other guy that I know, he literally got within $8 of his showcase, and he won both showcases. That's insane.
Wow.
That's very impressive.
Wow.
Damn. Okay, so Alex is very happy that he won. He actually really wanted that. So Alex won.
Oh,
so congratulations,
well,
Alex.
Fabulous.
And this is for the surprise horror film that we're going to be sending to you, the winner. And that would be, Kevin?
I'm excited for this one, man.
Spinning.
Me too.
Succubus? Are we sending them Succubus?
We can send them a copy. Why not?
How about the Birth? Can we send the Birth?
I have a copy of both somewhere, Darren. I'm sure I do.
Those might be bonuses.
Why not?
Why not? Fine. Co-directed feature by Darren and Donald.
Yeah.
Well, believe it or not, sir, it is Maria.
Maria?
Yeah.
Maria won.
Oh.
Hey, Maria. Congratulations. She won the surprise horror film. Okay, great. That's excellent. Excellent. All right. Enrique, yes, we did have to add you. You didn't win, but we had to add you anyway. You've been with us for forever. And is there anything else we're giving away, or is that it?
Yeah, do we have
I
like
thought we were giving away Kevin's shirt. What about Kevin's shirt? What happened?
That's right. Kevin, are we giving away your shirt or not?
Oh, we can't do that.
No?
But we could give away another surprise horror film, right?
If you wish. Right. Sure. Why not? Let's do it. One more surprise horror film. Let's go.
All right, let's do it.
Yes, Maria, you finally won. Maria's been with us since almost the very beginning. Probably the very beginning.
Hey, John, I'm not going to confirm or deny that this surprise horror film may be Motel Hell.
Hey.
All right. The winner of the surprise horror film is Sherlock Homie.
Sherlock Homie! What? Burp, burp, burp. Wait, that deserves the actual burp, burp, burp. Give me a second. Let me get that. I can get it. Here we go. Oh, winner, Sherlock Homie. Congratulations, buddy. Or lady. I'm not sure which, to be honest. It's been a day. So congratulations. So, Alex, you have won The Swamp Thing graphic novel. Maria, you have won a surprise horror movie. And Sherlock Homie, you have won a surprise horror movie. So we have 3 winners tonight. Thank you, everybody. Again, buy some things from our sponsors, from Half's Hot Sauce, from Splattered Frog Brewing Company. Go to their websites, halfshotsauce.com, splatteredbrewing.com. Give them some money. And thank you for being a part of this. Thank you. I'm sorry it ran over. This was a very long podcast. Kevin?
And next week, there'll be a prize giveaway as well for the Bond tournament, I'm sure.
Yes, we actually do. We do have a little Bond surprise. John, thank you for being our special guest. Really appreciate it. Sorry it's so late for you. Kevin, sorry it's so late for you. I know it's late over there on the East Coast.
Okay. Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. We love you all. We really appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed your prizes. Next week, we will be giving away another prize. It will be for the James Bond, the Battle of the Bonds. We need you guys there for the votes. You vote who wins. It's important. It's going to be a fun one.
Good night, Canada.
Yeah, good night, Canada. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening. And if we don't see you about anytime soon, we will see you
at the sometimes angry, bloody